Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Inspired by Mystery podcast. I am your host, Sammy Soros, and I have a very special guest today. This is Ryan J., drummer of the Roxy Gun Project and of Crimson Riot. Also, the Faja of our most wonderful mod, Roxy Gun. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. How you doing, Sammy?
I'm doing fantastic. I am so happy to
Good.
have you on the show. This is a whole family
Happy to
affair.
be
We've
here.
had we've had Roxy, we've had RJ, and now we have you here to tell
Yes,
us a bunch of very interesting tales today. I'm very excited about this.
indeed. I guess
So,
interesting would be the right word for sure. So,
yeah, and it's going to be a
yeah.
very interesting show. I'm really looking forward to this. But
Yes,
just to give a
yes.
little backstory, so
Okay.
Ryan, you are a fantastic drummer.
Oh, thank you.
If I might
Thank
say
you.
so myself. I
Thank you.
think you are
I
absolutely
appreciate that.
fantastic. You're
Thank
you're
you.
awesome.
Oh, thanks.
So I want to get a little bit of backstory on who you are, what you're all about. So when I saw you in Vegas, I got to hear a little bit of how you started drumming, and I think it's a really interesting story. So I would love
Yeah.
for you to tell the people how you originally got into drumming to begin with.
Okay. Well, I think it's pretty typical, except for the fact that our whole family are musicians. So my parents, my aunts and uncles, my grandparents, like it's a long line of players that all at one point or another played professionally.
That is so cool. It just runs in your
And
blood.
yeah, kind of, it's just kind of that thing. So, and aside from that, I mean, it's just been kind of a general artistic type gene, I guess we would say,
It's
because I
really
have
cool.
one of my cousins is a professional ballerina, and then one of my other cousin is a like theater actress, and now she writes theater, whatever you call them, plays and things, and directs, and does these shows, and teaches little kids and yada yada. So it's a very kind of diverse artistic, but they all play instruments too. They're all musicians as well. So
Wow. So
um,
just
so
performance in general, being on the
pretty
stage and
much,
being
yeah,
in the
yeah,
spotlight is just something that's
yeah,
kind of genetically in all of you guys. That's really
yeah.
cool.
I mean, when I was really little, and I was visiting my cousins. I was the oldest cousin on that side, and my sister and I and my two cousins, we would always like create some kind of show and like do it for our parents in the living room, when we
That's
were
awesome.
visiting, and so just that kind of stuff. So yeah, there was a lot of that going on. And but as far as drumming, I mean, I was a little kid, and I'm banging on pots and pans, and garbage cans with wooden spoons and things,
I'm
and
sure
and
your
my parents.
parents loved that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they
They're
they
like, oh,
recognized it right away, so it wasn't necessarily a bothersome thing. They were like,
cool.
okay, he's got the thing. Let's
Yeah.
let's support this and develop this. So I think I was like 5, and my parents got me a little drum, and there was a guy at their church who was this, pretty well-to-do drummer. The guy had done some stuff, so I started taking lessons from this guy, and then just kind of progressed from there, and just went through a number of different teachers and instructors and different music classes and music schools, and just kind of dove into it, just from literally from like 5 years old. It just kept getting
Wow.
like more addictive as I went. I wanted to know more. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to study with this person and learn from this guy, and I accomplished a lot of really cool things that I wanted to do. And there's one major thing I never got to do, and it kills me because the guy is gone and he's no longer with us, and um, I never got to meet him, so that was unfortunate. But I did get to do a lot with a lot of people that I admired and I looked up to, and I
Oh, that's
wanted to have that experience.
fantastic.
So about So 9 out of 10 is pretty good. I'll take it.
All
I can't
right.
complain. I guess I can't
So since
complain.
you were
So
so little when you got inspired to learn how to drum yourself, what kind of music were you listening to at that time? I mean, as a little kid, you don't really
well,
get to choose. It's kind of what's given to you. So, what was your
kind of,
musical
yeah.
inspiration?
Well, it's weird. Okay, so at the beginning, my mom is a pianist, so she plays piano, and she mostly played, like church music and classical music and things like that. And she taught lessons as well in our home. So she had a little music room studio in our house that she would
Cool.
teach lessons to people in the afternoons and at night. So I was pretty heavily exposed to lots of different stuff, but pretty much kind of classic standards, your Beethoven, your Bach, your, like I said, like lots of the kind of uh, popular kind of church music stuff that we all recognize, the Alleluia song that Roxy does, we do some. So a lot of those, what do they call it? Like religious standards, I guess, or whatever.
Sure.
Um,
But those aren't
and
very
then
heavy drum tracks.
exactly,
So that's
exactly,
interesting. You're like,
right,
you know what this standard needs? Some
right,
motherfucking drums.
right. It's a
Let me
big
take
fat
care
beat on it, yeah.
of that. Totally.
But okay, but at first, like when I was taking lessons, I was learning kind of all the rudiments and the finesse and kind of the technique and the technical approach of the musicality of drumming, not necessarily hitting stuff, but really understanding how that works in context of basically orchestrated music. So I was exposed to a lot of kind of orchestra, stage band kind of stuff that they call it, with your violins and your cellos and your horns and all that kind of thing, uh, like a symphony style. So I was kind of into that for a while, and I was kind of learning the ins and outs of that, um, and then so I was just kind of listening to all these different kind of symphonies and Beethoven and Mozart and like Handel and all these people and then a lot of the kind of traditional soundtracks of things, Phantom of the Opera and Les Mis and all those kind of soundtracks to those plays and stuff. So I was exposed to that mostly, and it was fun. I really enjoyed it when I was little. When I was a little kid. I'm listening to these. It's very powerful music, as you know.
Very
It's
epic
very
for sure.
powerful and emotional, and it's dynamic, and it has all those things. So then I think I can't remember exactly, but I want to say I was somewhere between like 10 and 12 years old. I'm thinking closer to like 12, but I'm not totally sure. So my parents had one of those big giant console stereo systems that probably like a lot of the people watching their grandparents had. The big giant, it looks like a giant piece of furniture, and it has like the
Sure.
record player. You lift up this top, and there's this record player and a
So
radio, and
cool. Those are
maybe
so
yeah,
awesome.
old school thing. Weighed 1 trillion pounds. Anyway, so my parents had one of those, and just one day randomly, I just kind of turned on the radio and I started all the way at the left at whatever that channel 88 or whatever it starts at the beginning of the dial, and I just started turning it. I just started turning it and turning it, and I would hear music, and so I'd stop and I'd listen to it, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting, and I'd keep turning and turning. So then, lo and behold, I stumble upon the rock and roll station.
Awesome.
So I believe the first song that I heard that was playing at the time when I got to that station. I don't know what attracted me, but something I stopped on that station and I heard this music and I went, "Oh my gosh, like what is this?" And it was the Rolling Stones. It was like the last half of a Rolling Stones song, but I don't remember what song it was. I have no idea what song it was at all, but I'm pretty sure it was Rolling Stones. So then after that, Journey comes on. Okay,
Now your
so
mind is officially blown.
now, yeah, so now I'm super intrigued and I'm hearing these like big, massive, powerful drums. And right there, I was like, I'm doing that. Like I
That's
need to do
awesome.
that.
That's
So
awesome.
unfortunately, my parents were like, nope. They did not. They were not happy about that whatsoever. Um,
Really? They wanted
well,
you to be like a classical pianist or something or whatever.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and my parents at the time, not that they're not now, but when I was little, they were like super duper religious. So rock and roll music was, that just wasn't a good thing in our
so it's like
household.
footloose. You're like, no,
Kinda, yeah. I mean,
no
they were they
dancing, no
were
rock and
like
roll.
they weren't like insanely like fanatical or anything, and I mean, they had records, and they appreciate like my dad had a couple Beatles records and stuff like that, but the modern music freaked him out, you know. Um,
Okay. So when you guys were
uh,
driving around in the car or whatever, going to get dinner, it was
it,
all like
it was
more
very,
classical or whatever. You weren't rocking
yeah,
out to
very
Journey.
chill. Yeah, no, no, like probably like my dad liked country music a lot too, like old country. So there might be some like um, Kenny Rogers kind of stuff going, or some kind of that mellow, elevator country, like I call it.
Sure.
Um, so anyway, yeah, so it was really kind of mellow. So my parents had a really hard time. My mom was much more understanding, and was trying to. My mom got like into it, or not into it, but she accepted it and was like, okay, you like this kind of music, cool. We're going to go to the Christian bookstore and find you some of this music, that of
Okay.
this music that you like, right?
Appropriate,
Um,
still,
yeah,
still
so
rock
she
and
was
roll,
trying to
but
help.
appropriate.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
she
cool.
was still trying. She was trying to be a part of it and support what I wanted. Um, but yeah, she takes me to this like Christian bookstore, and we go there, and the lady's like, "Oh, he wants to listen to rock and roll bands," and so this woman's like, "Okay, here's the three bands that we have or whatever." So my mom buys me the three cassette tapes, and cassette tapes, yeah, anyone remember those? Um,
I do.
wow, and so I bring home these, and I listen to this stuff, and it was cool. It was good. It sounded like the stuff that I heard on the radio, and I'm like, okay. So I kind of got into it, um, and I went and saw two of those bands in concert actually, um, which were probably like my first like real rock concerts, I guess technically.
Okay.
And they were good. They were good. It was loud, and the drums were big, and it just it rocked out, and it was cool, and um, but something just was missing from it, and I couldn't really. It was great, but it didn't feel like the stuff on the radio. It didn't quite feel, whatever reason, it was just different. So
Because it was missing the sex and the drugs part of rock and roll.
perhaps so. Well, I think it's just done differently. I mean, now there's some stuff that's actually like you can't really tell like that it's whatever. Um, but back then it was kind of very blatantly religious. I mean, you could really feel, you could really feel what's happening there. Um, just Satan was missing from it. No, that's not right at all. No, no,
Did you
no.
see
I
what
was
Rock
not like
said
a Slayer
about
fan.
your
Of course,
dad,
my
her
daughter says
grandfather?
that.
My
But
grandfather, when asked if he liked Rush, said, "No, I don't listen to heavy metal."
oh yeah, that was my dad. Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
okay. He
My
tried.
dad, my poor dad, he was very confused. Yeah, he just doesn't get it. He's so into like his own kind of stuff that anything remotely rock and roll is heavy metal to him.
Interesting.
So
That's so
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. But that's just the way he
Look how you
defines
guys
it. I
turned
mean,
out, It's just,
oh, I
it's so
know.
cute. Like,
But he, I mean,
sorry.
but I mean, my dad is like the biggest Crimson Riot fan ever, if you can imagine that.
Is he really?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and
That's
RGP. I mean,
awesome. I
yeah. I
love
mean,
that
once,
he supports it
yeah.
for you guys.
It
That's
was
cool.
tough though. I mean, when I was a teenager, we did not do well. We did not do well together, and we butted heads a lot. And um, he just wasn't on board with my plan. And the last 15 years, he's been our biggest fan. He's just, now that we
Oh,
actually were able to make a career from music, he's so proud, and
I love that.
he's
He
super
came
stoked. Yeah,
around.
he
He wasn't
did. He
just like
did.
bah humbugging you guys the whole time because it didn't live up to his vision of what you
Right,
should be
right, right.
doing. Like he's proud
Yeah,
of you for moving
yeah,
forward, even though it's not his jams.
yeah,
That's okay. It
right,
doesn't have to
right.
be. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
he's really traditional. He's a real traditional, you know, uh, old school guy, and he went to college and he went to the army, and I mean, he kind of did that thing. But that's what people did back then. That was just kind of one of the things that people did. So I don't fault him for that whatsoever. He's wonderful and awesome. But yeah,
But it's
he's like,
interesting that he missed a lot of the rock and roll of the 60s and 70s. Like he was
yeah,
an
yeah.
adult during that time. And it's like that whole, like in the 60s, it sounds like that was when he was in his 20s or growing up or
It was,
whatever.
but he grew up in a very strict religious home as well. So, like
Okay.
way more strict than ours was. So he was very turned off, and probably even like afraid of that whole thing,
Oh, poor
of
guy.
that that 50s, 60s, uh, 70s even movement of music. It really was really weird for him. More than likely
So,
because my grandparents were like super hardcore religious. So, um,
so when
but
you started getting into rock and roll music, what was some of your favorite stuff? Once you started like digging around, what did you really latch onto the most?
well, I think at that time, I mean, I was kind of glued to that radio station. So anytime I had free time, and we had a pair of those old school headphones, the big can headphones with the curly cord, and so I would
Yeah.
plug it in so I wouldn't bother the family, and I would just lay there on the living room floor and listen to the radio and listen to all these songs. And so, I mean, I was a huge Journey fan at the beginning, just because they just had Steve Smith is such an amazing drummer, and he had just such great sounds and just big, powerful drums. And then, of course, AC/DC, um, Rolling Stones, um, pretty much any of the and then that classic rock stuff. The Creedence, the Eagles, I mean, I wasn't, and this people always hate on me for this, but I was never a Zeppelin fan ever.
What?
Yeah,
Really? I am
yeah.
surprised to hear that.
I know. I know. Most people are like, "How could you not? John Bonham was the greatest drummer in the world." Blah. And I'm like,
Dang.
"Okay, wait. Um,
That's
I
okay. Hey,
have
we all got different flavors, so it's okay. It is surprising that you were such a, rock and roll blossoming kind of guy, and that's like pinnacle of rock and roll right there.
And I'll explain why. I know why, but I also, yes, I am not a Kiss fan either. Even though like that was right in
I
my
I can
my pocket
understand
right
that
there.
between me and you. I can understand
Yeah.
that.
And here's the reason why, and I'll explain this why my favorite bands are my favorite bands. Growing up at the beginning and learning all that musicality of of music, the real theory and technique and that kind of strict discipline of music, and learning it as a young age, I tended to gravitate towards those bands that displayed that type of thing. You know, you I have you look at John Bonham from Zeppelin, he's an incredible, innovative guy, but technically and musically, he's atrocious. Like if you had to like,
Interesting.
you see what I'm saying? It's
Well, yeah, you were
I
raised to see music in a extremely technical way with all of the classical music. So it seems
correct.
like
Yes,
your
exactly.
brain automatically dissects everything down to like the
Correct.
nitty gritty. So I can
Yeah,
understand
exactly.
if someone's a little bit maybe sloppy or not, you know, technical in the
Yes. Yeah.
ways that your brain wants to hear it. I could
Yeah.
see you like picking it apart and just being like, nope.
Oh, that's exactly it. And my brain just goes crazy when I hear or see somebody doing something, and I'm like, oh my god. Like, but there are. I've listened to a lot of Led Zeppelin. I probably heard. most, if not all, of their songs. They're fantastic, and they did what they did, and I could never discredit them in any way. But there are some licks that John Bonham does that are just like mind blowing. And the funny thing is there's a I can't remember what song it is, but it's a one of their bigger songs, but I can't remember which one. He does this lick in there, and I always listened to it, and I was trying to figure it out. And so I played it how I thought he was playing it, but I knew technically that it was wrong. But then to come to find out, this happened to me like 3 years ago. I saw a YouTube video of this guy that like knew Bonham, and he's like, here's how he plays that part. And I'm like, oh my God, that is how it goes. It actually is wrong, but so there's a little bit of coolness in that he was really innovative, and he did things his own way, and his creativity was just straight up non-apologetic. He was just like, I'm just doing this, man. I don't care if it's right, wrong, or ugly, or whatever. And so I really admire people like that can do that. It's definitely cool.
What
So
about Pink
anyway,
Floyd? Are you a big Pink Floyd fan? Because they totally went off the rails and they did totally unique shit.
um, kind of in the same thing. I really appreciate them. They're all ridiculously talented. And they have some great tunes. I just never got into them. I never really got into that whole Pink Floyd vibe, I guess you'd call it.
Okay.
Um, but they're great. They're great. Um, when I was, how old was I? I want to say 14, probably 14. I had this teacher. His name was Ed, and he was a senior in high school, and he was one of my mom's students at the school. My mom was a school teacher as well, and he was kind of a strange character. So my mom kind of became his adopted mom, because this guy like lived by himself with some people, like just some random people that he knew, and he didn't really have any family. So my mom kind of took him in and helped the guy out, and super great dude, an incredible drummer. And so I took lessons from this guy for quite some time. So the first day I go over for lessons, he hands me this album, this record. He hands it to me and he says, memorize everything this guy is doing. He goes, this is now your Bible of drumming. And
Wow.
I go, okay. And it was this goofy white album with this crazy pink logo on it. And I'm like, all right. And so I take this thing home, I put it on, and it just blew my mind.
What was it?
The Rush, the first Rush album.
Okay. Well,
And
you
from
know what?
there,
As far as drumming goes, that was a pretty legitimate thing. Like, this is what you need to aspire to be.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I mean, that was the beginning of kind of my search for those kinds of bands and those kinds of drummers, of that very strict musicality, technicality, technique, like all those things that I'd learned my whole life to that point. Oh my gosh, here's my people, kind of thing. Um,
Totally.
so, and strangely enough, I mean, that the first album is John Rutsey, who was an incredible drummer. He was the first Rush drummer before Neil Peart, who we all know, who came in after that, and continued on for the rest of the 40 years of their career. Um, so that was definitely the game changer, is when I heard Rush. I mean, Journey was kind of the preface of that, because there is some really cool technical stuff that Steve Smith does from Journey. But once I heard Rush, it was all over. It was like, oh my God, I will love this band for the rest of my life, and that never changed from when I was 14. I mean, I was just, I could not stop talking about them, looking at them, listening to them, trying to be them. I mean, I that was like my thing for forever. So
Did you get to see
um,
them in concert?
I did. I've seen them 3 times. I saw them three
Awesome.
times.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, yeah. I'm really happy that I got to see them the 3 times that I did. I know there's people that have seen them 8,000 times, and that's great. I would have if I could have. Um,
Sure.
I mean, the worst part about it is that the last 10 years, um, they came through Vegas a few times, and we were always playing as well. So it's like you
Oh.
know, we're downtown at Hennessy's, and Rush is playing down the street, and I'm just dying inside, because I'm just like,
Oh,
oh
that
man,
sucks.
oh,
That really does
yeah,
suck.
oh. But no, it's all good. And I'm just very fortunate that I got to see them the 3 times that I did. I feel very very grateful that that happened. Um, but yeah. Anyway, so moving on from there, I got into more progressive and some little heavier progressive stuff, and then it just kind of went from there. And then in the, when I started playing in bands. I finally got into some bands when I was like 12, 13. I started playing with some guys and just kind of went from there and did a bunch of stuff in the 80s, had the big giant hair and the whole thing.
Nice.
Uh, oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
want to see some photos of that. That sounds awesome.
Um, yeah, I have one. I thought I showed that to you. I guess I didn't show it to you, but
No, but you definitely
yeah,
should.
I had the big. Oh, here, wait. We can do this. Wait a minute. We have technology. We can do this right here. Watch. Hang on.
And we got the Discord too, so you can throw some stuff in the
Oh,
Discord too if
okay.
you
Yeah.
want.
I'll just. Where is it? There we go.
But yeah, if
Okay.
you send it to me,
Here. We can just look at it. There you
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
There.
Yes! Yes, look at that hair.
Yeah.
Fan freaking tastic.
Big giant rock and roll hair, and that was
Did you wear
natural too.
tight
That
pants as well? Very tight pants
absolutely.
with the belts and the
Yes.
whole thing? Did you do a bandana?
I didn't. I didn't do the.
Okay.
I always got really really warm playing drums. So one of my and this is so funny too. So and I'll admit it. I don't even care. And that was my natural hair, by the way. That was not a perm or anything. That was my straight up
That's
natural hair.
awesome.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
And it got really. That was probably 2 or 3 years before I cut it. So it was way down. I mean, it
Oh,
was, and it had straightened out a little bit because the weight of it growing. So it got a little straighter. It was more of a wavy kind of thing. But yeah, that was my real hair for a long, long time.
where did it
Real
go?
long time.
Where is it?
Once you have kids, all that goes away. No, I'm just
You
kidding.
pulled it all
I
out.
pulled it out. No, actually,
Oh
what
wow.
what really so here's the thing, and I'm not trying to blame rocks or nothing, but so once you have a child, you got to start thinking about stuff, and you got to kind of like, okay, how long can I do this kind of thing and with this child or whatever. Um, so I think Roxy was like 2. She's probably, yeah, maybe she was, yeah, like 2. Anyway, so I decided to try to be a regular adult, and I cut off all my hair to work at Walmart.
Because that's a real adult job. How old were you at that point when she was
Like
born?
21. I'm like 21 at that point or
So you were
something. Yeah.
19 when she was born,
Uh,
or something like that.
I
20.
don't know. She was 20, so I was probably like 22, probably like 22 or
Okay.
something. So somewhere in there,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, early 20s. So yeah, it was crazy. So I did that. I was like, I'm gonna be a grown up, and so I cut
How'd
my
that
hair.
work out
Got
for
this.
you? Have you
Well,
grown up yet?
things change. Yeah, I have not. I refuse to. Actually, I refuse to do that.
Good.
Um, yeah.
Me
Well, I don't
too.
know if it's good or not, but it seems to be working okay.
I think it's
So
good, man. Youthful abundance keeps us going through this life. You don't want to
well,
get
it
too old.
does. It really does. It really does. And the funny thing about that is, in pretty much every band that I played in, I was always the youngest person which was kind of funny. And it was just really probably because of my skill level. I was always playing with guys that were way more experienced,
Cool.
and older. So my first band was this band called Telesis, which was a super dumb name. But
I
the
like it. I
guitar
think it's
player,
fun. Seems like it fits the
uh,
time too.
yeah, in the '80s, it made sense, right? So uh, so I was 12 years old, and so this girl that I went to school with, Karen, her older sister, who was in high school, was dating this guitar player guy. Um, and so she said, "Hey, my sister's boyfriend's looking for a drummer for a band." And I'm like, "Yes!" Like I was so excited to finally get in like a rock band. I think I was in like seventh grade or something. So I get the guy's number. I call him on the phone. I'm like, "Yeah, I've been playing for a while, and I can play this and I can play that." And he's like, "All right, cool." And so he gives me his address, and I said, "All right, well, I'll come over Saturday. We'll jam." So I had to have my mom, I had to have my mom take me over to this dude's house in the minivan with all my drums, piled in the back. And so I walk into the dude's house, and he looks at me like, "You're kidding." So this guy's like 17 and I'm 12, right? So he's like,
Oh man.
"Who the hell is this little kid? Like, you're Ryan?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "All right, let's see what happens." So he pulls open his garage, and I load in all my stuff. He had this great garage. It was all like soundproofed and stuff, and it was a really nice garage that his dad had set up for him to play guitar in. So he shows up, the bass player shows up, the singer shows up, and these guys are all like high school dudes. They're all like 16, 17, 18, like in that range. And so here's this 12-year-old, and they're just like tripping out. And they're like, "Okay, well, what do you know?" And I'm like, "I know this song, this song." I'm just like rattling off songs, and I'm like, "Let's play AC/DC." And they're like, "Awesome, let's do it." So uh, we played TNT by AC/DC. Was the first song I ever played in a
Nice.
band with
Awesome.
people. Played TNT, and they were just like tripping. They were like, "Dang, dude, you killed that. Like, what else do you know?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Let's play." So we played. I don't know. We probably played like 4 or 5 songs, and just kind of hit it off. And so I was in the band. I was just in this band now, and so
That's
I'd have my mom.
awesome.
I'd have my mom take me all the time. But then the guitar player ended up getting a van, so he would come and pick me up sometimes if we had like little like
Cool.
parties or whatever. We'd play like backyard parties and play little things in the park or whatever. So he would just pick me up in his van. We'd load
You
my
must
junk
have
in his
felt
van.
so cool in seventh grade, like
Oh
being friends with
yeah,
the old high schoolers that are picking you up and you're
oh
playing in a
yeah,
band with them.
oh
Like that
yeah.
must
It
have
was
been good
insane.
for your
Yeah,
ego.
yeah. No, I don't know. It was just exciting. Like I don't even know. I was just stoked to be able to do it, and play for people. Like even if we were playing some dumb backyard party for 20 teenagers or whatever, it was like Madison Square Garden for me, just because people were watching.
Totally.
People were
Yeah.
watching me play, and they were just like, "Yeah, dude, that was awesome," and it was just cool. It was just and from that point, I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to entertain people with music, and it was never for getting chicks or being cool or trying to. It was never that. It never was that thing for me. It was always just about that energy between me and the audience. That was always what
Yeah.
drove me to do music. I was like a goofy nerd in high school. Everyone's like, "Oh, there's that drummer dude." They're like kind
Really?
of,
I
"Oh
would have thought
yeah."
you would have been like the cool guy where they're like, wow, that guy's an
No,
awesome musician. Like, check him
no.
out,
I
getting all the
I
chicks.
dressed weird. I carried this Converse backpack with a bunch of drumsticks sticking out of the top of it. Always had some earbuds in, listening to
I would have
Rush or
totally hung
something.
out with you, man. I would have
Well,
been like,
I,
this
I
guy's
had I
fucking
had friends. I
awesome.
mean, I had a lot of cool friends. I had a great circle of friends then. But as far as like, I wasn't like the quarterback of the football team kind of thing. Where everyone's like, "Oh, there's whatever Spencer or whatever." I don't know,
Yeah.
Chad. Uh,
Totally, Chad.
Whatever. Yeah, I was never that. I was just kind of a normal kid, and I was in marching band as well, so that kind of like knocks you down like three pegs.
Totally. What did
for
you play? Did you
coolness.
do drums and marching band
Oh
or a
yeah,
different
yeah.
instrument?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I did, yeah. In high school, I did marching band, and then I went on and did professional drum and bugle corps in Los Angeles. So
Bugle
I'm a good
corps?
drum
Bugle
and bugle
corps!
corps.
Like, I've
Yeah,
never heard of
right.
that, but that sounds hardcore.
It's like no, it's not hardcore. Well,
Hardcore
it is
bugling.
actually it's super hardcore. It's basically professional marching band.
Okay. Okay.
So and they're all over the
That's
country. And so what
hardcore.
happens is you go audition, and if you make it, then you tour and you go all over the country and compete against all the other drum corps that are out there.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
and it's really, really hard. It's like being in the military. It's super, super insanely challenging and demanding, and it's hard. It's very strict and hard to do,
Did
but
you like the
um,
challenge at the time, or did you just kind of feel like,
absolutely.
yeah,
Oh
cool.
yeah,
That's awesome.
because well, so what happened was in my high school, our teacher, our drum teacher at the high school I went to, this guy was way deep into the pro drum corps scene. He was way into it and knew all the big cats that were out there that were, making it happen. And one day he comes to class, and he's got this dude with him, and I'm just like freaking out because I know who the dude is, and it's this guy Ralph Hardiman, who's like just like he's a god of drum corps. This guy is so amazing, and so he comes in with Ralph, and my jaw hits the floor, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Ralph. And Ralph watched us play for the weekend, and at the next week, Monday at class, my teacher came up and he's like, hey, he goes, would you be interested in auditioning for a drum corps? And I said, absolutely. He's like, Ralph would love to see you come down and audition for him. And I'm just like, well, now to be
Wow,
fair,
cool.
three guys from my group got asked to go down to LA and audition. Um, so one of them was one of my really good friends at the time, and so our parents um, helped. They switched. They take turns carpooling us back to LA and back. So I lived in Central California at the time, so it was about a 3.5 hour drive to down to LA. So his parents would take us one weekend, my parents would take us the other weekend. The other guy ended up
Oh,
not
that's
doing
so
it,
cool.
but so we ended up doing that. I got a spot, and just loved it. Just absolutely loved it. It was just the coolest. It was like the ultimate challenge um, musically and physically. Like it's so physically and mentally demanding. It's like the ultimate challenge. It's like people that climb that stupid mountain or whatever. What's that? What's it called?
Everest?
Yeah, Everest. Yeah, yeah. It's like the it's
That
like the
stupid
Everest.
mountain, Everest.
Yeah, whatever that. All the people die on it. I mean, it's like horrible.
I
But
know, yeah,
anyway,
it's true.
so yeah. I mean, that was like literally like an Everest for me to
That's
get that
awesome.
spot because I was actually really young. I was much younger than most of the people there, so I was really stoked, and I had kind of a lot to prove to get in there and and kind of show myself that I could compete at that level and be able to do it. So that was exciting. That was a fun time. And then
Yeah,
so
that's
then
so
out
cool.
so after that, then I started playing in bands again. I was in this band called Human Zoo, um, and we did a lot of big stuff. We did a bunch of tours, played with a bunch of hair metal bands. Um,
Fun.
yeah, so it was fun. It was really fun. It was a fun experience. And then along come the kids, and right away we knew that they were musical. I mean, it was a no-brainer. I mean, I don't know if Roxy ever showed you. There's a video of Roxy their grandparents took when she was like 1.5 or 2, and she's like dancing in this room and singing, and she's like doing this whole production in this bedroom by herself, and she's singing
Cute.
these things. It's
Oh,
it's so funny, and she was always like that as a kid. Both kids were super like outgoing, and Racer not the same way, but still he was very very like, look at this, kind of thing. He always wanted to have like some kind of audience. So, so I
And
don't
that
know. We
must have
just
been
kind of,
really cool having him want to learn drums as well. Because he was saying
yeah,
that from when he was a kid, he just knew that drums was it. So how neat that your son like
yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to play the same instrument as you. Like what an awesome bonding experience that must have
Well,
been for you
here's
guys.
the thing, though. Here's the thing: is that little dude? He plays everything. I mean, he can play guitar, he can sing, he can play drums, he can play bass, he plays
That's
ukulele. I mean,
awesome.
he's just like a natural. He's so good at just like adapting to stuff. I mean, he's just really good at it. So he definitely has like all the talents of everybody put together. Where
That's
like,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, like Roxy got the guitar and this and the vocal thing, and I got the drumming thing and blah blah blah. But yeah, he got like all of it. Like he got from like every family member just into this one person. So
That's
I don't
really
know.
cool. Well, how
Oh, he's
wonderful that
he's
both of your
laughing at me
kids.
now.
Yeah, I know. Oh, it's great that both of your kids were musical as well. I mean, it being passed down in the family, you know, that's must
Yeah.
have made you feel good where you're like, yes, okay, we're all on a team, which now you are officially on a team with your daughter.
Yeah, it is, but it's also kind of terrifying because I know the grind that I went through to like get even anywhere near making a living doing it. Um, yeah, because I mean, in between stuff, I've had a million jobs, like not musical jobs. I've had a million different jobs when the music was bad or when music wasn't happening or I didn't, I had a lot of crazy stuff happen with bands where, you know, we're like right on the verge of something great and someone, quits the band because whatever reason and
Yeah.
just kills the whole thing. So then it's like, oh, great, here we go. All right, now what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to sell cars. Okay, or oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to go sell potato chips, or I'm going to whatever. So I had a lot of jobs. I've done it. My youngest stepdaughter always makes fun of me because um, we'll be talking about something and she's like, oh, let me guess, you did that, right? And I'm like, yeah, I did that for like a year and a half. So
But
she's always
it's
giving me a
cool
hard time
because
about it.
so it's the curse of the musician. You're like
Yeah,
you
it
have
truly
this
is.
musical talent, but you were able to
Yeah.
kind of show them, okay, it's totally cool to want to be a professional musician, but here's what you're going to have to do as
Yep.
well. You're going to have to
Yep.
get creative and figure out other ways
Yep.
if you can't make it professionally. So
Yep.
that's, I think, a good lesson as well. It's not
I
all
mean, yeah,
glitz and glamour.
no, they definitely saw the grind. I mean, they definitely experienced the grind for sure. Um, yeah, I have had the weirdest, coolest jobs. That's true. I have. I've had some weird ones, but yeah, that's another show. You do a show about weird jobs. I'll be on that one too. But anyway, so
So,
yeah, I don't know. I don't
yeah.
want to keep rambling about the music stuff because it's just all these people know this thing. I think anyway, but I don't know.
But
Do they? I
so
don't know.
transitioning though
Okay.
into Roxy Gun Project
Hmm.
and Crimson Riot.
Yeah.
So how did you end up going from doing your own projects to having this project with your extremely talented daughter and her lovely husband, Chris?
So, so I was playing. Oh yeah, I was playing in this really cool band called Version 9, which is a concept band, and it's written around this whole like crazy theory of this like post-apocalyptic world, kind of like where we're at now, which is weird. Um, Now that I think about it, yeah, the whole. I'll send you a video. We have a music video for one of our songs that we did. But anyway, I was in this band called Version
Cool.
9, and it was really cool and experimental, and it was kind of, I don't know, kind of has like a Tool Perfect Circle vibe ish to it. So it's kind
Sounds
of,
right up my alley.
yeah, great. It's great stuff. Anyway, I was playing in that band, and Roxy was doing the acoustic stuff. So I was taking her around and doing these little like open mic nights, and she was playing at little coffee shops and stuff like that. So fast forward, um, I think she was like 17 or 18. She's like, Dad, I want a full band. I want a real band. I want to like, she was a huge Motley Crue fan at that time. So she was like all about playing big, big, loud, crunchy guitar and just rocking out, right? So I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, let's find some people and we'll try to get a band built for you, these guys that we know, and see if we can get you going and get some songs put together and go out and start playing, and then we can kind of find the right people as we go to plug into the band, and then you could have a band. She's like, okay, great idea. So we talked to this friend of ours, Victor, who was a great guitar player, really, really nice guy. And so I asked him, hey, man, here's what we want to do. Would you come in and play like lead guitar with Roxy? And we're going to put this little band together. And he's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Roxy's great. And you guys are nice and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, let's do it. So we do that. So we're trying to find a bass player. So there's this character, Chris Reject, at all these open mics, this jokester. So we start becoming friends with this guy because he's everywhere at the open mic jams. So we get to know him, and I'm like, hey, man, I go, do you know how to play bass guitar? He's like, nope. I'm like, okay. I go, well, do you want to? He's like, well, I think I can. He goes, I play guitar. I just never was a bass player. I'm like, okay. I go, well, here's the deal. Do you want to play bass like for Roxy? We're going to put this band together, blah, 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 blah. He's like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I'll do it. So I go to this little guitar shop and I buy Chris a bass for like $200. This like old used bass. It was okay.
Funny.
It was nice.
Instead of finding an actual bass player, you were like, you should learn how to play bass for this project. That's really cute.
Well, it was about the people that were willing to do it. The people that were willing, because Roxy's young and it's like, okay, she can't really play in bars. She can't really do this thing. So trying to find willing participants was kind of tricky. So
sure.
he was willing, and I was like, okay, man. I go, do you got a bass? And he's like, no. He goes, I think I can borrow one. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. So yeah, so we're at this little guitar shop, and I find this little red Ibanez bass for like, I don't know, I think it was like $200. So I buy this bass, and I'm like, here, dude, learn how to play this thing. And
that's so cool.
yeah, nobody
Roxy
wanted to
says,
play with
nobody
Roxy.
wanted to play with me. Oh, how old were you? How old was Roxy at this point?
Okay, at that point, I think she was like 16 or something, 17? 16?
Wow.
No, wait, yeah, 16. Because we had a couple people lined up and they bailed, they flaked out, and then later on we got me and Chris. Yeah. Anyway, so I told her, I go, okay, I'll play drums for you. Let's find some people. So we put this little band together, and we were sitting around. She's like, so she wanted a band name. We were having dinner one night, and we're all there. Yeah, you were 18 at that time. Yeah, okay. We were all having dinner, and we're like, she's like, I want a band name. Let's come up with a cool band name. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And her mom said, because of the situation, and your dad's just doing this temporarily, and Victor's there, and they're just kind of helping you out. So don't make a band name, because then people are going to get attached to these people, right? So let's call it the Roxy Gun Project. So then the members could be interchangeable, and it wouldn't, it's really you, but it has a cool kind of band vibe to it without just being like a solo artist.
Sure.
So
yeah. Okay. That makes
so
sense.
her mom came up with the Roxy Gun Project, and what is she saying? Oh yeah, the Swedish lady. Yeah. Anyway, so we were like, oh, that's perfect. So we start the Roxy Gun Project. So we go and we play a few gigs, and Roxy already had like a pretty good reputation around town as a solo artist. So once people heard she had a band, it was gangbusters, and we had like gigs like crazy. Like it was nuts.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it went really fast, really well, really fast. And these little spots around town, were just like, they wanted us every weekend, and they wanted us for this thing, and they wanted us for New Year's, and they wanted us for, all these things. Anyway, so um, so a little bit into that, a couple months into that, our guitar player Victor decided to become a bartender that worked on weekends. So he's like, I gotta leave the band, guys, and we're like, okay.
Man.
So then we were a three-piece. It was just Chris and Roxy and I, a three-piece. And we played a couple gigs as a three-piece. Really wasn't working out. And so Roxy had met John Mills on Facebook because they were, like guitar people or whatever. And she met him somehow through somebody, and they became friends. And she's like, hey, my band's playing. Why don't you come and check out my band? And he's like, okay. And so John shows up one night, and we're playing, and he just dug it. And he came up after us, and he's like, hey, do you guys need a lead guitar player? And we're like, yeah. We're like, are you one? And he's like, yeah. And we're like, okay. We're like, show us something. So he like grabs a guitar off the wall in this guitar shop that we're playing in. It was this weird place downtown in Vegas. It used to be, it's gone now, but it was like a bar venue music shop. It's kind of cool.
Sounds awesome.
So it was like a music store with this cool stage and a little bar on the side. And so, yeah, it was awesome. Anyway, so there's guitars hanging on the wall. So John grabs this cool guitar, and he sits down, and he starts like ripping all this stuff. Just, and we're all like, yes, you're in, dude. Yeah. So we have a gig the next day. So I tell him, I'm like, hey, I go, how fast can you learn stuff? He's like, really fast. I go, I'm going to email you 3 of our songs. You think you could have them ready for tomorrow night? He's like, absolutely. So he played with us the next night. He came in and played with us that night.
That's crazy.
And just did killer. Yeah, he did great, and we had a blast, and he fit right in. He was an awesome guy. Yeah, and it was just from there. I mean, he was with us for what, 6 years,
Wow.
straight through. Yeah, before we got Randy. So. And now we've had Randy 4 years.
You were supposed to be temporary drummer.
We were supposed to be temporary, yeah. I was supposed to be. I never had any intention on really doing that per se. I had other stuff going on. Anyway, so what happens is after we get John, somebody nominates us for this award thing, and we're like, okay. So we get invited to this award show, and the category that we were in was called Stars of Tomorrow. We were nominated for Stars of Tomorrow. So we're like, okay. We've been a band for like 5 months, right? Like we're really nothing. So we win the stupid thing, and now our picture of us as the Roxy Gun Project is all over the place. It's all over this magazine. It's everywhere on every website and blog and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh, whoops, now we just did what we didn't want to do, and it happened. So we just went with it.
That's awesome.
So now 10 years later, here we are. Yeah,
10 years later. Oh,
it evolved. I mean, this band definitely has evolved, because at first we were just going to be an original band. We never in a million years had plans to be a cover band, and we got this kind of weird opportunity to get in front of a giant audience, and I suggested that we learn a couple cover tunes, because the audience that we were playing to was kind of more of a classic rock type crowd. I said, hey, let's learn like a Joan Jett or a Pat Benatar tune, or something that these people are really going to like relate to. So everyone kind of hem and hawed, like, we don't want to be a cover band. We hate cover bands. We don't want to sell out, blah, 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 the whole thing. And so we do this show, and it just like, it's gangbusters. Like, people loved us. They loved us. So the band that we opened for, they ended up asking us back several times to play. So it was like, okay, people are digging it. We got to learn some more songs, So we did that, and then the next thing you know, it was like, hey, we could make money doing this. And Roxy was working at Kmart, I think, at the time. Yeah, Kmart. I think Chris worked at a Burger King or something. So it was like, guys, I think we could make money doing this. We could make a living if we put enough songs together. We could do this. And
Yeah, especially in
so,
Vegas where there's so much live entertainment,
yeah,
consistent
yeah,
live entertainment. It's a
yeah,
good spot for it for sure.
yeah. So we kind of so that band took off, and we had both elements. We were a working cover band as well as an original band. So we could go out and do original shows, or we could go and work and play down at Hennessy's or any of those little places that you've seen us at, and make a few bucks. And so it definitely worked out. It definitely
That's
worked out
awesome.
in the
And
long
it's
run.
still
So
working out. Now you have like such an amazing following on Twitch,
it's
which
it's
the
crazy. I
pandemic
mean,
really helped out with that one. I know it really hurt a lot of
really.
musicians, but for you guys, you've been able to expand all over the world,
It's
which
definitely
is
been
so
awesome.
cool.
It was definitely I don't know what you call it, diamond in the rough or whatever. I don't know. It was a blessing
Yeah,
because we were dead in the water. I mean, we were literally freaking out because it was like, oh my gosh, we just got like the rug yanked out from under us. We have no idea what's going to happen or when we're
absolutely.
going to go back to work. And so it's like, let's just stream shows and see if it works,
Yep. And
And
now
so
you have a
that's kind
tour
of what we
coming up
did.
next month. So now
Yep.
you get to actually kind of get back to a little bit of sense of normalcy and go do a Crimson Riot tour, which is going to
Yes.
be
Yes.
awesome for you guys. Everybody
Yep.
was stuck at home for so long, and now you guys get to hit the road all
Yep.
together. And I
Yep.
think that's going to be
I love
awesome
that.
for you guys. I'm
Yeah.
really excited. I wish I
Yeah,
could
it's
just
it's
hitch
gonna
a
be
ride
great.
with you guys. Sounds so
Yeah,
fun.
you and about 20 other people that are like, I'm going. I'm like, no, you
I
can't.
know. I
We don't have
know. Damn
room. Yeah.
it.
Unfortunately, we don't have room for an extra 20 people, but we would if
Yeah.
we could. Trust me, it would be awesome to have a bunch of our friends to go with us, and that would be
You need
amazing.
Dolores too
Dolores
to take
2
all
and
your
3 and
friends.
4, and yeah, right? No
Totally.
kidding.
No, that's great. I'm really glad that you just had this music in your soul as a kid and you were able to really like put all this time and energy and love into it and it served you well
Yeah.
back. So you're able to
Yeah.
still do
Yeah.
this, pretty much remotely full time. I mean, I know you have to supplement here and there, especially now with the way that things have changed a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's cool that
Yeah.
it's been a main focus of your life ever since. So
Oh, it always
that's
has been.
that's
Yeah, I
so
mean, it's always
awesome.
been all the different things that I've done musically and gone along with music. I wrote a lot of scores for marching bands and wrote drills, and I've done a lot of different things over the years musically. I worked when I was a like a late teenager. I worked at a little music store recording studio, which was great because the guy that owned it was just the best. And I could tell him, hey man, I'm going on tour for like a month. He's like, okay. And I would go and then I'd come back and I'd go back to
That's
work. Like
great. That's
it was,
awesome.
yeah, because it was a family owned store. And so, he would either come in and work himself. He was actually the studio engineer at this place, but he would work the store. We had a little music store up front, and then the back was the recording studio. And so if we had to go on tour, he would just cover it, or his wife would come in, or his buddy would come in and run the store while we were gone. It
That's
was just
so
such a
cool.
cool. It was just the perfect thing for someone, that was doing what I was doing because I could just tell him, oh hey man, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. Okay, when are you coming back? You gonna be in that Monday? I'm like, yeah, I'll be back in that Monday. And he's like, all right, cool, man, be careful,
That's
rock 'em,
so
rock out. And
awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Most
it was
people are
great.
not as lucky. So I'm
Yeah,
so glad that you had that freedom because a lot of people have to
yeah,
choose. Do you do this conventional job? Do you
right,
do,
yeah,
what's in your heart and in your soul?
yeah.
So I'm really
Oh, trust
glad
me,
that
because I,
you're
I, I
super
quit.
free.
I quit jobs before for that. I mean, I did. I had this crazy job where I went in and interviewed, and I told the woman at the interview, I said, look, I'm free and clear, but I said I said next weekend I'm going to be in Los Angeles, so I can't work that weekend. And she's like, oh, that's fine, no big deal. I'll write a note down. So she jots down that I'm not available next weekend, and she hires me. So I work like a couple days later is like my first day, and I do all the training, and I'm doing learning how to make food. It was a little burger joint, and then I look at the schedule, and she's got me scheduled on Saturday and Sunday. So I go to the woman, and she had like a little office in the back, and I said, "Excuse me," I said, I at the interview I told you I wasn't available on this weekend, and she's like, "Well, do you want a job or don't you?" And I go, "I guess I don't," and I walked out, and that
Good
was
for
the
you. He's like, I
yeah. So
literally told you that. Like
yeah, it was like so
that was the
weird,
deal.
yeah, and it was like okay, that whatever. So yeah, it was like really disheartening because I really wanted the job. I was very excited about having having this job and stuff, and um, yeah, and so she did that, and I just okay, whatever. So I bailed that thing. So I worked there a day and a half technically before I left because it was just ridiculous. And so and I told my parents too. Like what happened? And I'm like I told her blah blah blah. This woman named Gail, and I said I told my parents knew her. I said I told Gail at the interview that I needed this weekend, and they're like, I can't believe she did that. And I'm like, I know, how weird, right? Like what a weirdo. So my parents were a little upset with her, but
Yeah, that's just a shitty thing to do.
yeah,
That
it was
sucks.
kind of shitty for sure. But anyway, so yeah, but I've had a bunch of weird, crazy jobs too. So at different things. So
It's good.
yeah, yeah, I guess
So, as
it's been fun.
far as getting to our spooky stories.
Oh, I know this
So,
has been like
during
crazy,
this
right?
entire time of your life thus far,
Yes,
there
yes,
was another side of you that you
yes,
were dealing with
yes,
as long as you
yeah,
can remember.
yes,
Tell us a
yes.
little bit about the extra senses that you had and some of the first things that you can remember.
Well, I think when you're little, I think things process differently than when you're an adult because when you're little, when you're 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, um, at least when I was, um, things were very different. And so when you experienced something like that, it didn't seem weird or out of place or scary or impossible or any of those kind of things that like most grown adults would think like, oh, that's silly or that's just your imagination or they do that thing to kids all the time. But I just had a lot of weird experiences when I was younger. Um, I always would feel like somebody was in my bedroom with me. Um, and again, being raised very religiously, I thought maybe God was in my room or something. I'm like looking around like, oh man, is that God or like what's going on? And I kind of would have these weird feelings that there was like a presence, but I'd never seen anything. Hadn't seen anything. I was just feeling it. So I was probably, like I said, between like 5 and 8 years old, I would just feel these things, and it was enough of a feeling to make it kind of slightly uncomfortable, like as far as like a child would go. Like you're like a little bit scared, so you'd kind of pull up the covers and kind of peek over, like, is there
Sure.
something in here? It's dark, and you're like, oh my god, like, is there what's happening?
I have been
Um,
there. I know that feeling.
okay, so yeah, so it's just this weird feeling, and so I would tell my mom, I'd be like, Mom, I felt like something was in my room, and she's like, it's probably the cat or the dog. We had animals in my house. They're like, oh, it's probably this and that. And I said, no, 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 I didn't see nothing. It just like felt like there was something in my room. And she's like, no, 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 no. Your imagination, right? There was nothing. Oh, it's just your imagination. So time goes by, and I have some other kind of strange experiences happen where I just kind of have these feelings. Um, and then the big one. So I'm on like a family vacation, and I'm probably 10, yeah, probably 10 or 11. And we go up into Northern California, and we go to the Winchester Mystery House,
Oh,
the big tourist place,
look
right?
at my fucking mug.
There you
That
go.
was totally weird. Yeah, okay, that's funny. Anyway, carry on. What are the
So
odds of that?
we go to the Winchester Mystery House, and my family's like, "Oh yeah, this is really cool, and it's gonna be all scary and blah 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 blah." So I get out of the car and I walk like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 feet from the car across the parking lot, and I freeze and just get violently ill. I'm pale, I'm throwing up, I'm on the
Wow.
ground, and I was just like, I'm not going in there.
What an
Something was
extreme
like
reaction.
very, very, and it hit me really hard too. It wasn't even like a progression. It just like wham! As soon as I got like as close to the house, it just, at that distance, it hit me, and I just like, I got sick, violently sick. I was throwing up. I just like sat on the ground, and my parents were freaking out. Obviously, they're like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" And I said, "I can't go in there." And they're like, "Why not?" And I'm like, "I can't go in there. I'm not going in there." So I sat in the car or by the car and kind of in the car. My parents and my sister went through and did the little tour and everything, and they came back out and had souvenirs and stuff, coffee mugs and T-shirts or whatever. But yeah, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that at all. And then later on, we'd gone to up in Carson City. There's a lot of these kind of like old mining ghost town type places up there in northern Nevada, and
Awesome. I love those kind of places. So cool.
very similar type experiences. Very similar type experiences there as well. Not as bad as that one, I think, because that was late. That was years later. So I think once I kind of felt that, I would just kind of like avoid it right out of the gate because I knew that like that wasn't good, and I had that feeling again. So I would just avoid going into a certain building or getting near a certain area of this little town, and I would just
Did
pretty
you
much
try to
avoid them.
dissect these feelings? Like when you had this feeling, were you like, okay, hold on, let me try to like look deeper into this to understand what's going on? Or were you just like, hard no, bail it out, leaving it at that?
Well, it was, yeah, it was pretty hard no because I it was really difficult to talk to my parents about it because I figured they would be like, "Oh my God, he's possessed by Satan" or something crazy. I didn't. My parents were super religious, so I didn't want them to think anything like that was
Absolutely.
happening.
That
Um,
sucks. So you had to
well,
hide that. You felt like you should hide that from them. That's too bad.
I did until I was just, let's see, I was just recently married to Roxy's mom, um, and we had come home. We had come home from a gig. At the time, I was living. I was like back at home. I was living with my parents. Oh, I wasn't married yet. That's right. I wasn't married yet. Uh, so I was just engaged to Roxy's mom at the time. And we were at a gig. We were at one of my gigs one night, and we come home late at night, and we're sitting in the kitchen of my parents' house, just I don't know, we're having a snack or whatever, having some coffee and whatever, eating some. It's like probably 2 or 3 in the morning, and so where we're sitting there's a hallway down in the house. It's the hallway that leads to the bedrooms. Pretty common house. So this hallway, and we're sitting there, and Roxy's mom like almost jumps out of her seat, and she's like freaking out, and she grabs onto me, and she's like, "Oh my God!" And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Look down the hallway." And I'm like, "What is down the hallway?" So I go like this, and I look around the corner down the hallway, and sure enough, I see this dark blue figure go down to the end and turn into my parents' bedroom.
Whoa.
And I'm like,
Whoa.
so we're like sweating bullets. We're freaking out. We run outside to the backyard, We're in the backyard of my parents' house. We had this picnic table in this patio, and we're sitting there freaking out, smoking like a million cigarettes because we're like, we don't know what to do. We're like super stressed out, freaking out. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what was that? Oh my God, should we call the cops? Like, should I wake up my parents or what? Like, what should we do? Um, so we were super freaking out, and so we kind of like sneak back into the house and we're looking around and I'm like, it must have just been like a shadow or something, like car lights made a shadow. And she's like, no, 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 no. She goes, I saw it come out of the first bedroom. I saw it come out of the door and go and move. And I'm like, oh God, okay. That's not a shadow or nothing. That's like something
Well, I'm
real
glad
happening.
that somebody else saw it
Yeah, yeah.
because you had
Yeah.
like some validation.
Yeah, that's what was super weird
RJ
because we both.
RJ was telling a story before a couple weeks ago that he was in the car and he saw somebody run in front of the car and Jordan didn't see it
Oh wow.
at all. So
Yeah,
he has
that doesn't
tended to have
surprise
seen
me.
things that other people present weren't able to
Yeah,
see.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm glad that you at least had a partner in that one,
yeah.
make you feel a little bit less crazy.
Here's the weird thing, and I don't even know how to like wrap my head around this. So the next morning, we're all hanging out at my parents' house, and I tell my mom, I'm like, Mom, I go, I don't know how to tell you this, but we saw something crazy last night. And she's like, what do you mean? And I go, we were sitting at the bar, the breakfast bar, and I said, we saw this like thing walking down the hallway and it went right into your room. And you know what she does? She goes, that's my guardian angel. And I'm just like, what the hell?
Well, that's one option.
Okay.
So she saw it too at times, right?
Apparently, she has seen this thing several times. And then she goes on to tell me that when I was younger, before I knew anything, this thing used to, this is really weird, this thing used to make chocolate milk or it would spill Nestle powder all over the kitchen trying to make chocolate milk.
Yeah, RJ was telling us something about that, how it was just like always a mess and no one could figure out who it was, and then
Yeah, yeah,
come
we
to
could never
figure out
figure
it was
out,
none of
no,
you
yeah.
guys.
So my mom just kind of attributed it to this guardian angel thing. And she said there was never anything malicious, that nothing ever like bad happened to them or anything. And she claims that it's this like guardian angel. And she still like thinks it's with her. Like she still like totally thinks that it's a thing.
Wow. Well,
So I'm like,
if that's
okay,
what she
cool.
knows as her
Yeah,
like model of reality and how things
yeah,
work, it's a lot easier to just say guardian angel moving along, everything's fine, rather than open Pandora's box and have to ask a million questions that
yeah.
just have no answers. It's a lot harder for people sometimes to open up all of
Well,
those questions.
and maybe she's right. I don't know. She's really
Possibly.
spiritual. She's very religious, and she really believes in all that kind of thing. So who am I to say that it's not? I mean, I don't know. I have no.
No, you're right.
I
It's
saw
possible,
this
but there's
thing, man.
also
You know.
other options, and
Sure, of
nobody
course.
knows.
Yeah,
But for you,
but
you're
if
like, I'm not convinced that it's one thing or the other, but I'm
yeah,
convinced I saw something
yeah,
walk
yeah.
down the hall in through a closed ass door.
Oh, speaking of that, before I forget, because I remember you guys were supposed to remind me of this. I don't. I told Dusty to remind me. Anyway, okay. So there's this funny story. So you guys were talking about dreams with RJ.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're talking
His
about like
crazy
dreams.
dream.
Oh, right, right. Okay, so here's a funny one though. This is kind of funny. So this isn't really a dream thing, but I just got to tell you before I forget. Then we'll get back on track.
Okay. Got it.
So like I told you before, my mom's a piano player. My mom was a professional piano player, like literally her whole life. She still is. She just doesn't do as much now. So what she would do in her dreams, I guess she would have dreams of performing, and she would sit up in bed and play on my dad's back like she was playing the piano
That is
all the
so
time.
funny.
Yeah, it was
Oh my
super
God.
funny.
That's so cute.
Yeah,
I
it was
like
super
that.
funny.
That's
And my
very
dad would
funny.
wake up out of a dead sleep like, "What are you doing?" And yeah, she would sit up. She would sit up in bed and start playing piano songs on my dad's back like he was a piano. It's so
That's
funny. Yeah.
fantastic.
And
I
that
love
happened
that.
like a million times. It's super funny. They used to tell me all the time, like, "Oh, your mom's playing piano on my back again," or whatever. And so
That
anyway,
is
so
so
I had to tell you
hilarious.
that because you were talking about
I'm
dreams, and
glad
I
you
thought it was
shared
one of these
that.
funny, just
That's
funny
really
things. So,
cute.
and she doesn't remember doing it either. She would just go back to sleep at some point and not even remember
Interesting.
that she was playing my dad's back. So
I love it.
oh, it's funny. It
So
was
good.
a
Okay, I'm
funny
glad you
family
shared
story
that.
that went on.
That's
But
cute.
anyway, okay. So back to scary weird stuff. Okay. So anyway, uh, I just had to get that in there before I forgot about it.
Good. I'm glad you did.
So that thing happened, and like I said, I don't know what it is, but I kind of feel like if if nothing malicious or bad or evil, or there's no like you know dark feeling or evil presence happening, then maybe there are good spirits. I mean, there could, I don't think everything has to be evil and bad and scary, right? I mean, as far as like
Absolutely.
spirits go, right? Okay. So
Oh yeah, there's a
whatever,
whole spectrum.
sure, whatever my mom calls it, it's obviously something that she has accepted and is aware of, and it hasn't harmed her or done anything bad other than maybe make some mess in the kitchen. But um, which is super weird because I think that's like a whole different other thing, right? Like things that move stuff, like it's a different type than just like a I don't know. I don't know the specifics of it, but
Yeah, there's like
um,
the residual hauntings where it seems like it's just somebody on repeat, like
right, moving,
imprinted
yeah,
energy just
right,
moving, and then there's like
okay.
some kind of like conscious, sentient type
Well,
of
is it okay?
interactive spirits.
Well, is that like poltergeist? Is that poltergeist the ones that like move are able to like move stuff, or is that just more of like poltergeist is like an evil
Uh,
thing, or I don't?
yeah, I mean, from my understanding, like I think that a lot of different kinds of spirits can move things, but it doesn't necessarily make it uh, like evil intent or
Okay, all
aggressive.
right,
So I think
okay.
poltergeist would more be like aggressive intentions.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, okay. So whatever that is, but yeah, but she didn't seem to be afraid of it at all. My parents didn't seem to be phased by it whatsoever. They just kind of accepted it. My mom was like, "Oh, it's my guardian angel," and I'm like,
Cool.
"Okay." I'm like, "Well, that thing scared the hell out of us, so thanks for
So
telling
now
me."
that's making me realize that not only do you and RJ both have this, but your mom certainly did as well.
Well, this thing was,
And then
uh,
your grandmother, who knows about your grandmother, knew your great grandparents or whatever. So it seems
right,
like there's
right.
some kind of extra sense that seems to run in your family pretty
The weird
distinctly.
part about that particular one was it was very solid. It wasn't the typical kind of foggy apparition type. I mean, this thing was like solid. Like it freaked me out. At first, I thought it was when she said it. I go, oh, maybe my mom's sleepwalking. That was my first thought was, oh, it's probably my mom walking down the hall or something, in her robe or whatever. But that was not the case because it went through the doors like without
Yeah.
opening them. It just went through, and so
Did you
and
happen to hear RJ's story about the farmer guy with the pitchfork or shovel or something like
oh
that? Did you
yeah,
hear that?
oh yeah,
Because he
oh
said
yeah,
that was solid as somebody was just
yeah,
standing there too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's interesting.
Because
That's funny. So
the other stuff that I'll tell you, they were more of that kind of I call it like Disneyland ghost because it's more of that like clear kind of transparent type apparatus or what do you call it, apparitions or whatever. So yeah, so later on, this is just like I had a couple other things, but I really was trying to stay away from it. I was really trying to stay away from it. I didn't want to open my mind up to it. I didn't want to really be a part of it. We used to watch that show Medium, and that poor woman in that show was always like bombarded by all these like spirits and people trying to get her to help or them to help her cross over or whatever the thing was. So I didn't want any part of that. I'm like, I don't need that in my life. I already got like crazy things happening. I don't really want to, have to deal with these spirits and souls of whoever. And anyway. So
yeah,
I kind of blew it
I
off,
can
and I just kind of
understand.
got rid of it. So. Uh, moving forward, there were a couple other little kind of just weird feelings and weird things that happened. And then several years ago, we used to all live together in one house up in northern North Las Vegas. So at night we had a pretty healthy drive up the 95 to get to our house. We were pretty much like 20, 30 minutes out of town north of like the main strip of Vegas. So we all had like a pretty long drive to get home. So we're driving home one night, um, and it's probably, I don't know, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm driving down the freeway, and I'm going, 65, 70 miles an hour, and I catch this glimpse of a little kid on the side of the road, of the freeway at 3 o'clock in the morning. I see this like little kid. So I slow down and I'm like, was that a dog or was that a little boy? So I've got to find out what's going on. So I slam on my brakes. I pull off to the side of the freeway. I jump out of the car and I turn around and I see it. And it's this little boy who's probably like 3 or 4. And he's walking down the freeway. He's just like walking, like he's looking for something. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. Why is this child out here? So I start
Yeah,
walking really, I
scary.
start, yeah, I start walking really fast towards him because I think there's someone's kid on the freeway. And as I get closer and closer, he gets clearer and clearer, or like more transparent as I get close to him. Yeah. And so then I stop and I'm like, oh God, this is not a little kid. I mean, it is, but it isn't. So I take off and I run back to my car, and I'm just like sitting in my car looking in the rearview mirror watching him walk. And so then he just eventually just vanishes. He's gone. He's gone. He's like walking and then he's gone. So I think that's one of those, what do you say, residual ones that just keep walking like a same area or whatever. Is that what
Sure.
that is, right? They
Yeah.
just like on repeat or something of some
If it's just on
experience.
repeat, like, did it look like he was interacting with you? Did he see you? Or
I,
did it
I
just look
it
like he was just kind
no.
of doing the
Yeah,
motions?
he was just kind of going. So there was no, it didn't stop, it didn't engage me, it didn't, acknowledge that I was there. It was just walking. So,
So that's got to make you
um,
wonder if a kid did get hit on that highway many years ago and is just kind
yeah,
of doing the thing. And most people don't have the eyes to be able to see it.
or it was just the time of night, or I don't know what did that exactly, but it was very creepy. And he was dressed like, I don't know what you call it, 1800s or whatever. He was kind of, looked like that with the suspenders and kind of a long white shirt and, kind of, I don't know, just kind of tattered pants, kind of
Not
thing. And
modern style
not,
and
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah,
in any way modern
definitely,
style. Okay.
definitely. I don't even know what period that would be from, but, I'm thinking like, you know,
Old
I don't
timey
know.
period.
Old timey. There you go. Let's go with
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Old timey. I like that.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm not a
jeez, that's so
clothing
strange.
period connoisseur of any kind, but
Chid
so
says
that was
Amish.
yeah, ish, yeah, maybe like yeah, like that kind of thing, like like thick black pants and suspenders and the white shirt, and he was just like walking, and I'm like, oh my god. So then,
That's
so
weird.
then, this is the worst part about it. So then, about 2 years later, same freeway, not in the same spot, but same freeway, probably about a mile and a half, 2 miles prior to where the little boy was. I see a guy. There's a man, like a grown man, same time period, in the same kind of clothing,
Oh my goodness
and it's
gracious.
a man that, probably 6 foot tall, pretty big guy, and I see it from a distance because in my head I was like always looking on the side of the road for these things as I'm driving.
For
I'm like, oh my
sure.
god, sure as shit, here comes, boom, here comes whatever this guy, and he's walking. But this was the weird one. Would stop and look around. He was looking like he was looking for something. So, and he would walk, and then he would turn. So I instantly pull off. As soon as I see this guy in the distance, I'm like, oh my God, there's another one. So I jump off on the side of the road and I'm just like watching it. And I'm watching it walk and stop and like look around, not noticing me at all. It's totally oblivious to the traffic because traffic's blasting by this dude. It's just like, traffic's going and he's just walking and I'm watching him walk and he's walking and then he stops and he kind of like he's lost or he's looking for something.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I watched that guy for about probably a good 10 minutes. That was like a 10-minute deal. And he would just walk kind of back and forth and look around and then come back and look around and then he would go. And I was just like, okay. So I just got back on the freeway and I just drove and I just drove past him. I
Whoa.
just didn't even
So
care at that point. I was just like,
Shid had
okay.
an interesting point. Shid said, "Do ghosts grow up?" Wonder if it was the same person but an older version of the kid. That's a
Well,
pretty interesting thought.
I don't, I don't, I don't know if that would have been the same one or not. I'm really not sure. What possibly could have happened, here's kind of my thought about that, was that maybe something really bad happened in that area long, long ago, and people were like the little boy, maybe his whole family died somehow and he was just like walking around trying to find his family, and then this guy
Sure.
maybe something happened and he was looking for his wife. I don't think the two are related necessarily as far as
Okay.
the same person or maybe even the same family. I don't know. um, but because they were pretty far apart, but that doesn't mean, I don't, I guess that doesn't mean anything, but I don't know if they were really related. Yeah, there you go, like a wagon wreck or yeah, something like some kind of bad situation happened. Maybe there was a little town or a little
Interesting.
settlement there, or who knows? I don't know. I don't know what that would be, but it was
That's
really
so
weird.
interesting. Twice though on the same
Same road,
freeway.
yeah, roughly in the same area. Yeah, it's that stretch. It was like that. Was that like the last 5 mile stretch of before where we lived on the 95? So the northern part of the 95 freeway. Um, so yeah, it was weird. That was definitely a
RJ with the
weird one.
1800s NASCAR accident.
Yeah, that's it.
That's so funny.
That's
Wow,
yeah,
yeah, that's
that's
that's really that's strange. So it's
yeah,
interesting that you see things in such detail. Like you're able to see these figures like in such extreme detail. Like I feel like
yeah,
that's a pretty profound extra sense for you to be able to have. So these
yeah.
ones so
I
far seems like they're not trying to communicate directly with you. It just seems like you're kind of
no, no,
seeing the
yeah.
past a little bit. So have you had any like direct interactions where it seems like they're actually trying to reach out to you directly?
Um, no, not in that way. In high school, I had a really weird, bad experience, a dark, evil experience. Um,
Ooh,
there was
tell
a
me.
girl. There was a girl that was friends with a musician friend of mine, and he tells me, my friend Ron, he tells me, he's like, dude, he goes, I know this chick that's a witch, and I'm like, what? Like, come on, dude, what are you talking about? He's like, no, dude, I swear to God, dude, this chick's a witch, and I'm like, okay. He's like, you want to go meet her? And I'm like, no, 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 no. Because like if he's being dead serious, I don't really want any part of that. And so I'm like, no, dude. He's like, no, she's really nice, dude. She's really cool, and she's like, she loves Iron Maiden and stuff. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So we go to this woman's house, and when I meet her, I can tell something is seriously wrong. Like this woman has had some kind of really weird experiences with whatever this is that she's doing.
Hmm.
So we sit down in her living room and we're talking and we're just kind of like talking about music and stuff, but I can tell like she's very darkly disturbed, I guess I would say. She's just very had this weird energy and just very um Nice. She was nice, but you could tell that she had some sort of weird thing. Anyway, so we're sitting there, and she's like, "You guys want to have a session with me?" And I'm like, "What is she talking about?" And Ron's like, "Yeah, yeah, do that thing, do whatever." So she pulls out a Ouija board, and she starts like doing all this stuff, right? And at first I'm like, "Oh, okay, I've seen this in the movies. Haha, it's really funny." It's not funny at all. Stuff went flying, table got knocked over, bad energy flying around the room, just super weird.
Like
And
physically, the table just flipped over and shit started flying around, and
yeah,
nobody
yeah,
did
just
this that you could see.
no, yeah, no, it was clear as a bell. We're sitting there on a couch. She's sitting there in a chair. There's no wires or springs or nothing, and things just went off the rails. And I'm like, nope, I'm out. I run
What
out
the
of the house
fuck?
because I'm terrified at that point. I am terrified of this. My friend Ron's just sitting there like paralyzed because I guess he'd seen her do some stuff, but this thing went like completely batshit crazy. Um, he'd seen her do kind of the, oh, are you listening? Yes, the kind of that typical, I don't
Sure.
know, Hollywood version of the Ouija board, I guess. Um, but yeah, this thing like came in like hellfire, and it just like went nuts, and it just slammed the table, and everything went flying. The table fell over, and she's just trying to like control things, and you can feel like this like whirlwind of evil, like a tornado of evil. You can feel it going around the room, and it's
Did she
cold,
seem
and
concerned
it's
about this? Like, did she seem like, oh, fuck, I didn't expect this? Or was she just kind
um
of like, oh, that's my homie, it happens all the time?
yes and no. I felt like she had had that something like that happen before, but I don't think she was expecting it at that time. I
Okay.
don't think what she was trying to do.
Okay.
I think she was playing with something out of her league. That's what I feel like to this day,
Yeah,
that
sounds like it.
she was messing with the wrong shit.
So I gotta ask
So
though, when you first started doing the Ouija board, did this happen like pretty quickly after you started? Was it like an immediate thing, or did you have a conversation with something and then all of a sudden it lost its shit?
we were kind of talking with ourselves. There was another girl there. So there was four of us, but the other girl was sitting across from us in a different chair. Um, she was pretty freaked out as well, but I guess she kind of was into this thing, so she was kind of like digging it. That it was like, oh man, look, it's cool. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, we were kind of having this conversation. We're talking about, I think Ron was talking about like a guitar he wanted to get or something like that. He was talking about music stuff, and we're just kind of talking, and she's doing her thing, and she's just kind of saying stuff in between our conversations because we're quite a way. We're like across the room from her, um, in like a living room. So we're sitting on a couch, and she's kind of over here in this chair, and then her other friend is over in this chair. So we're kind of a ways away. So she would like talk to us and then look down, and she was saying things to the board, or whatever, and then she would kind of look up and go, "Oh yeah, that would be cool." Whatever, just kind of nodding and doing acknowledging what Ron was saying, and then it just like it was almost like someone took a bowling ball and like hucked it at the table. I mean, it hit it like that hard. It came in so hard and ferociously that it knocked the whole table, and so the board and the little whatever that
The
thing's called,
planchette.
the little, okay, yeah, whatever,
Yeah,
that thing
planchette.
goes flying, and the board goes zooming off the table, and it just turns into this crazy thing. I
Did you
immediately
get
dash
sick
out the
during that? Like, because you got sick
no,
approaching
no,
the creepy
because
places.
we were talking, and then like everything happened, and then it was just like and I could feel everything like instantly. So I dash out the door. I think I was probably 17 at the time. I dash out the door, Ron is petrified. He's sitting on the couch, like just like freaking out. He can't move. I'm yelling at him like, dude, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. He was driving. He had a car. He was older than me. And I'm like, dude, let's go. We got to go now. Let's get out of here right now. So he finally makes his way out, and we jump in his car and drove and never came back. And oddly enough, I never ever saw that girl again either. Never ever saw her around town or any. Never
Well,
heard
I'm
of.
sure
Never.
that was good for you because you didn't
Yeah.
want to look at that chick in the face
Yeah.
ever
No.
again. I'm
No.
sure that was like
Never.
terrifying,
Never.
knowing that she was like conjuring up some really dark shit. You
And
wouldn't want to be around that.
she was one of those girls that was kind of in. She was kind of in the circle of people that we were in, but not directly like in our circle. But she was kind of like a rocker chick, she liked heavy metal and blah 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 blah. So she was kind of in the general circle of the rock community of our little town, but not in our like direct circle of people. But a lot of people knew her,
And you never
but
saw her after that, though.
never saw her, never heard her again. I've never, no. Like after that day,
Hmm.
obviously I didn't want to try to find out what happened to her or anything. I was just like, nope, I'm done. But yeah, usually,
RJ says she got yeeted into the shadow realm, yo.
perhaps, yeah, perhaps,
That's
yeah,
crazy. What a
yeah,
bizarre story. That sounds
yeah, really,
really
really,
uncomfortable.
it was super uncomfortable, and that's where at that point was where I never ever wanted to mess with anything like that again. Like I told you before when we had talked when you were here in town, uh, that was enough to tell me like don't ever open yourself up to that kind of stuff ever because you just don't know what you're messing with. And I've heard of
It's
people
very
getting tricked.
true.
I've heard of people getting tricked by spirits or whatever that come in and they kind of befriend you and they're like, oh yeah, it's cool, bro. And then all hell breaks loose and your life is ruined or whatever. And it's like, I just don't
It
need
it
that.
can happen. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
unless you understand how it works or learn some tools on how to deal with it, like you're at the whim of whatever is coming through. So
yeah,
when you leave if you leave your front door wide open, you might get a bunch of friends come in, but all it takes is one bad guy to come in and try to rob
exactly.
you. But so don't leave your
Yep,
fucking door wide open. You can
exactly.
leave it
Yep,
unlocked if you're interested a
yep.
little bit, but you're not going to just leave it wide the fuck open.
Right,
Because
exactly.
there
Exactly.
are, in my opinion, I feel that there is legitimate dangers opening up to this realm, but you didn't even
Yeah.
need to open up. So it's not like your first experience was doing a Ouija board thing, and all of a sudden now you have this sense about you. You've always had this
I was
intuition and this sense, so you're sensitive anyway.
And I was super sensitive to that anyway. And I when she pulled that out, I got really uncomfortable because, again, with my crazy super religious background when I was a kid, certain things still scared me. I mean, even though I was like 17 and I kind of knew, well, I thought I knew that, oh, that's just some silly thing, but people think it's evil or whatever. Well, hey, guess what? It might be. I don't know. Or it
Yeah.
could be. Make it that way. I don't know. But yeah, that was my first and last only Ouija board experience, and I do
Okay.
not want to
Okay.
have that. Yeah, I know.
Yep. That's definitely a spooky one. So I can see how
That's
that
not
could
Yahtzee. Yeah.
kind of like I don't know, make you be like, nope. There's a big giant nope door that gets closed on that
Yeah.
one. At
Yeah.
17 years old, it seems like all the other stuff from when you were younger, it never presented as a threat in any way. So you're like, okay, I'm open to it because it seems like it's not a threat. Guys making chocolate milk and or whatever, like
Right,
all
right,
these things
right.
that you're feeling like it doesn't seem like it's actually bad or
Yeah,
anything. And
yeah,
then all
but
of a sudden that
yeah,
happens.
yeah. Well, and again, the the illness thing seemed to only be part of things that were bad, like Winchester, those kind of darker things were the ones that made me ill, where the difference between seeing the people on the freeway didn't give me that feeling, didn't give me that sickness feeling as these other things had. But I think they're just because of the things that happened in those situations,
Yeah.
those
Yeah. I mean,
Winchester
like I was
things.
saying
I
before,
mean,
it's a whole spectrum. Just like with
yeah,
people, there's some
yeah,
really fantastic people. There's some really evil pieces of shit, and there's a lot of gray
yeah,
area in
yeah.
between. And I think that says everything about the world.
I
There's a
get the
balance.
I get the same feeling going over the Hoover Dam. I get that really sick feeling going over the Hoover Dam.
That's
Um,
strange. Huh.
well, tons of people died building that thing. So
Okay. All right.
there's
Okay. That
people
makes sense.
there.
Yeah.
There are people in the Hoover Dam. There are bodies cemented into the Hoover Dam.
Really?
Yes, because these guys fell in there and there's nothing they could do, so they would just cement them in, and they are part of the dam.
Oh,
So
damn.
yeah, dams, right? You're right.
But you know,
Yeah.
saying about Winchester, I talked about it a little bit when I had RJ on. That I had a similar experience there. I'm not going to go into a whole thing since we already kind of discussed it, but I got extremely uncomfortable when
Hmm.
I was in the heart of the house, which I didn't know at the time was the heart of the house, the
Hmm.
room where they did all the seances and all that shit. I got really hot. I started sweating. I felt like I couldn't breathe really well. The air felt really stuffy, and I just started like fanning myself with the little pamphlet. And I was
Yeah.
like, God, like, what is this room? Like, something is not right about this room. It was really intense, very
Hmm.
stagnant energy. And then the tour guide comes in and was like, all right, this is the heart of the house. This is where, the lady every
Yeah.
night at midnight did the seances. And I was like, well, fucking A, like, no
Right.
shit. I
No
could feel it.
kidding.
But I remember looking around in this tour group, which was maybe about 15 people or something. And I'm looking at everybody's faces to see if
Yeah.
anybody else is registering
Sure.
what it is
Sure.
that I was feeling. I
That
was
feeling. Yeah.
scanning and I'm like,
Yeah.
anybody, anybody. Everybody's totally fine. Everyone's just like, blah, 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 like chit chatting. And I'm
Yeah.
like, something's not right. I started to get like, it was claustrophobic type of feeling. And I didn't
Oh
feel
yeah.
that anywhere else specifically in the house. I felt like some energies in different places, but it was this like claustrophobic, like the room was squeezing me. So it's interesting that
Oh
had a similar thing at the Winchester
yeah.
mansion. And I remember thinking while I'm in there because the house is fucking gigantic. It's got like hundreds of rooms.
Yep.
To get out, you have to like go on a whole thing. And in this moment, I had this feeling where I felt kind of panicked, and it was like I can't even just get out of here easily if I needed to get
Yeah.
out. This is like a whole
Sure.
thing. I
Sure.
need to get a
Yeah.
guide to like guide me
Hmm.
out. So I was
Get
like,
out. Yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
And
No.
that's just
I
hot flashes. I was 20 something at the time, so hopefully not hot
Yeah. That's
flashes. But
probably not
yeah,
then. Yeah. No.
it was
That's true.
rough. It really fucking, it really got me. It did. It was strange. So,
Oh,
there
absolutely.
is a lot of
Absolutely.
energy in that spot. So interesting
Yeah, there
too that you
is.
didn't even have to get into it for you to
Nope.
automatically feel.
Nope.
So I
I didn't.
wonder if it's you picking up on these things or if you have some kind of innate warning system. Maybe because you are so open, there's your body gives you a warning system. Like for me, it's strange. My eyes water if I'm in a place that has a lot of really intense energy and I'm
Yeah.
like
Sure.
questioning, where I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
is it just me? Is it just in my mind? Like I'm trying to look at things rationally and my eyes will well up. Or if I'm talking to somebody about something of this nature, like my eyes get teary. It's not like I'm crying, but there's a physical reaction that I have out of my eyeballs that
Hmm.
kind of is my sign that my body's giving me that like yes you are having a legitimate reaction right now, so stop just trying to like rationalize all of these things, like just deal with the fact that this is what's happening. So I'm grateful that I have that kind of as a alert system. So
Yeah.
maybe vomiting and feeling horribly sick, maybe in a way that's your alert to, hey,
Yeah.
don't go, you're too sensitive to put yourself into a situation
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, Roxy's just mentioning now too, is we a couple of years back we went to Alcatraz, and I think being an adult at that time going through Alcatraz was a completely different thing. It was incredibly uncomfortable, and I could feel everything. But I was so excited to experience it just because it's such an amazing piece of history. I forced, obviously, we went, and I had a great time, and it was a really neat thing. I think the thing there, though, was when we were walking through Alcatraz, we had these headphones on. So you go there and you like rent these headphones, and as you walk through, it's telling you the story. So I don't know if that kept everything kind of balanced because I was focused on the story as we're
Maybe.
walking. So it felt really horrible, but it didn't get me to that like sick point
Good.
like before.
Okay.
And since Winchester, I hadn't ever had the like violently sick, ill thing happen again
Okay.
to that extent from when I was little. I still feel that. Like a couple of years ago, we went on tour and we stopped off in this Goldfield, Nevada place that's like super horribly haunted.
Roxy and Chris
And
want to take me there when I come out next
yeah,
time, and we're gonna bring RJ, and we're going to do a test of his abilities out there. I've heard them talk a lot
nice.
about it. It sounds really
Oh,
cool.
that place is ridiculous. We were walking around and there's these, abandoned buildings, and I'm just like, nope, we're going this way. And it was
Interesting.
it was weird. We took a picture. There's a picture of us in front of one of the buildings, and that place had the worst vibe like imaginable. Um,
Really?
yeah, it was like I guess it was an old schoolhouse, but it's all burned up. But they just have it fenced off. The thing's still sitting there, but it's all fenced off. And that place had the most like sad, sad, horrible, just bad vibe. It
Do
was
you get
pretty
any
gross. But
specific images or stories or
oh, the high school, that's what it
messages?
is. Yeah.
Yeah, are there any kind of like specific things that you get, or is it more of a generalized feeling of sadness or like
Yeah, it's
fear
more
or
emotional.
whatever?
It's more of an emotional feeling of yeah, it's more of an emotional feel of like sad or hurt or pain or not or something like wow, that was weird, like holy cow, but it's not. It's more of a what do you call it? Maybe more just like a freeing experience or a more pleasurable experience than sad or dark or whatever.
Sure.
So I,
So it
I
just seems like
felt I felt
you're an
both.
empath. So
Yeah,
whatever
exactly.
energy is around
Hmm.
you, you
Yeah,
are
that's true. That's
extremely
exactly it.
sensitive, but you're not
Yeah.
necessarily getting detailed information or contacted
No,
directly. It's
no,
more
no,
of
no, no,
just
no,
like
no, no.
this
Yeah, no.
general vibe.
I do not want to be contacted. I do not want to be communicated in any way. That's what I'm trying to avoid. Like I was telling you, I don't want to have that happen. I just feel like again, it's that if you open the door thing. I'm just really nervous about that. So I've just tried to squash most of that and kind of just keep it out of my head and not really ever think about it. Um, as much as possible, just because I don't want to get into a bad situation. Um,
Yeah, I think that's
it's
very mature and wise. You know, I do think that that is a very fair perspective. Not everybody that has these kinds of gifts is, no one's required to do anything with them, but you recognize
exactly,
them and
yeah,
you
right,
acknowledge them and you
sure,
hold your
sure,
boundaries. Like
yeah,
everybody gets to choose their own boundaries about what it is that they want to let in. And sometimes people have to work harder to figure out what those boundaries are and to hold them. But it sounds like you've always kind of been able to hold those boundaries where you want them, and you're still going to see this shit, you're still going to feel it, but you're not getting like directly contacted where
right,
they're like,
right.
help
Well,
me.
I mean,
That's good.
I'm not educated in that field at all. I mean, there's people I've heard of people that are like they know everything and they know how to handle it and they know how to communicate with them, and they know how to do all these things and handle this thing. And it's like, okay, cool, you do that. I don't got that kind of time. I can't go to ghost
Yeah.
school right now. I got things going on, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not going to ghost college or whatever's going on there.
I wonder
But
if you did though. I just, just theoretically, I wonder if you did try to educate on these things and you learned how to do it, quote unquote, properly, like what you would be able to do with the abilities that
I
you have.
yeah, I don't know.
Not that you need to find out, but having like a natural, it's like if somebody can sing, or let's say in your case drums. You have a natural ability to drum, but if you don't take lessons for drumming, then you might
Well,
not be the best
absolutely.
drummer
Right,
ever,
right,
but you
right, right.
could. So
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
I don't
the
blame you for not
people,
wanting to do it though.
again, if that's your passion, if you want to go be a ghost hunter and get a TV show and whatever's going on, fantastic. Like, have at it. Like, that's wonderful. If your passion and you're into it and you're learning and you're like a professional or whatever, or an experienced, educated person in that field, then awesome. If you're willing to take on that job, by all means,
Yeah.
have at it. I I am not that person. I'm not the person that needs to be going and trying to communicate with ghosts and things. That's not my deal.
It's
Um,
totally
Maybe I
fair. I
could be.
totally
I'm not.
wild.
I'm way too. I don't know. I just don't feel like I would be the right guy for that.
It's just not
So
your calling.
it's
And
not.
that's
Yeah, it's
totally
not my
fine.
deal.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't want that either. So
Yeah.
I am glad that I mean, I've had some really bizarre experiences, but I haven't had any like help me interactions or people coming like
Yeah.
directly
See,
at
I
me in
don't.
that
I
kind of
don't
way.
want any of
And I'm
that.
glad
Yep.
because I
Yep.
don't want
Yep.
that either.
Yep.
And
Nope.
plus, I don't want to physically see something if it's going to manifest in any kind of scary kind of way. And I have
Yeah.
never seen like what you've seen on the side of the highway or what
Yeah.
RJ's seen standing in your friggin' kitchen and
Yeah.
somebody running out in the road. Like I'm so glad that my
Oh, I forgot
abilities
about the.
are what?
Oh, I forgot about the little kid in the kitchen. I totally forgot about that one. Oh,
Okay,
that's
tell me about the kid
right.
in the kitchen.
Oh, I think RJ told you about that. This house we lived in, uh, just for a little bit of time. This guy that I did some work for had this house, and we lived in it for a while. But yeah, there was a little kid that ran around in the kitchen, and we all saw him. I think that's what he's talking about. We'll see if
Was
he
it
answers. I
an old timey kind of
No, it was like a normal
dude?
kid, like probably I don't know, maybe like
Saw this
oh
kid with
yeah,
half a face.
yeah, he was always shadowed.
Oh.
No,
Ooh.
guys, remember the lamplight house. The lamplight house. Remember the little kid that would run around in the kitchen in the house?
And everybody saw it?
Oh yeah, we all saw it. Yeah.
And it happened multiple times? Or was it just
Oh
kind of a
yeah.
one time thing? Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. See. Yeah.
Was it the
Remember that?
exact same thing that you were seeing? Was the kid running in different directions, or was it like that
No,
loop you were talking about?
no, it wasn't a loop. He would be in different spots, but he usually seemed to hang out in the kitchen. I think most of us saw him in the kitchen, but he was barely like his head barely came up to like the counter. So he was pretty little, like I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 or
The house with the creepy
the creepy
suitcases in the
suitcase. Yes,
garage.
yes, yes, that one. That house. Yes. Yes.
What was in
That's
the
exactly it.
suitcases?
I have no idea. They didn't belong to
You didn't
us.
open them?
No. Because they
Why?
were creepy. They were creepy
Ah!
suitcases.
I
You
would
don't
have had
open
to
creepy.
know though. Interesting.
Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah.
Oh.
All the memories. Yeah.
Interesting. So the little kid running around. RJ told me about the somebody who would open up drawers in the kitchen too. That was one of the
Yeah, that
first
was I think
experiences that he
uh,
had was the drawers opening up in the kitchen. Wonder if it was the same dude
oh
or if that was a
wait,
different
no,
house.
that was at the Roxy's like we opened them. Ha ha ha. No. Yeah, the roll. Yeah, it was a little condo that we lived in. It was an old condo in the old part of town. Um, that yeah, there was definitely some uneasiness in that place. I don't think it was necessarily in our condo, but maybe just the general area and the building itself. There was probably, I don't know, 12 or 15 buildings that had like four condos to a building, kind of thing. They're like attached. Um, yeah, and we would find drawers open and cupboards open, and we found some weird stuff. He was on my throat. Yeah,
Oh man.
yeah, that's
Well, it's
when, yeah.
interesting that you guys had shared experiences, but you also had your own individual
Well,
aspects of the
sure, yeah,
experiences too.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
what about so when RJ first started experiencing these kind of things and came to you about them, he said that it seemed like you were a little bit like, "Oh, whatever, that's weird," and didn't really want to engage in it. Was it because you didn't want to scare the kids or you didn't want to admit that maybe he had the same thing that you had too? What was your thoughts
Probably
behind that?
all of that. I think, I think it was, initially to like not panic the kids because he was pretty young then. Not panic the kids, and then of course my own like no, not again, kind of thing where I just didn't want to have that keep happening. I was really trying to avoid those situations as much as possible.
Yeah.
So to have them have the experiences as well, and I'd obviously seen a lot of the same stuff, so I was hoping, okay, well, it's a little kid or it's this or it's that. It doesn't seem malicious, so I'm just gonna like let it go and I'm not gonna like worry about it. I'm just gonna let it happen, and
Wow.
not panic everybody about it. So
But I would
um,
say that that kind of gave you an opportunity too to have somebody else that shared that with you, so you weren't alone, and you know how it felt you being
sure,
a kid and not being able to really talk about it with your parents, and it seems like they had
right,
a similar
right,
type of thing where everybody was like, okay, we're just moving along because
yeah,
we don't know
yeah,
how to explain it. Like I feel kind of sad that you guys weren't able to bond on that and be like, okay, what on earth is going on? Like this is something that we need to hash out, or like, oh, here's the family history. But I can understand you not wanting to scare your kids because they're kids. And if you're
yeah.
like, no, this absolutely is real and this is what I've seen, I can understand that, potentially scaring them
Yeah,
more.
it's just a weird thing because I think it's so all that stuff is just so unknown, and like I said, if you're not an experienced professional or incredibly experienced person with that, you could potentially lead yourself into a situation that you don't really want to be in, and that's kind of always how I believed about that stuff is like anything else. I mean, I'm not going to go do open heart surgery on somebody because I mean, I get it, sure, but I'm not I'm not qualified or experienced enough to do that.
Totally.
I get it, but I'm not, so it's kind of that thing. I just kind of feel like in certain situations and certain experiences, you have to really kind of know what you're doing or you're going to like really have a problem. Um,
Yeah. So you just
but
thought if you
that's
just
that's
kind
just
of
me.
just like just brush over it, you're like, whatever, guys, you're fine, like maybe they would not focus on it as much and maybe not get messed with as much. So it was more of
Yeah,
like a
maybe. Yeah,
preservation kind
yeah.
of
Because
thing.
I didn't obviously I didn't want to invite more into that situation, or have tell the kids, oh, you should talk to it and see what happens. Like, no, like that's not a good idea. So,
For sure.
obviously. So yeah, I mean, because being little kids, I didn't want to open them up to that whole like acceptance of engaging that kind of
Yes.
um, energy or whatever spirit or whatever you want to call it, and get themselves in some kind of trouble.
But then there's a
Um,
child running around the kitchen,
well,
and what are you doing that? But you're like, dude, oh, that was weird. Gonna
yeah,
go
that was pretty much it. I
make
was
some
like,
chocolate
oh,
milk or
okay,
something.
okay, sure, why not? Like I guess it kind of like didn't really phase me because I'd seen so much of that kind of thing already. I was just kind of
Sure.
like, oh, okay. They're like, Dad, there's a kid in the kitchen. I'm like, oh, okay. and that was just kind of it. And then I saw it a couple times. I think everybody's kind of in the house saw it several times. I think it even came because it would roam around. We'd sit in different places. I think one of the kids saw it up on the top of the stairs. Um, I saw it in the kitchen like twice. Um, Kids saw it up in the. We had a little it was a two-story house, so I think one of the kids saw it up on the top of the stairs one time. So yeah,
Crazy.
it just kind of roamed about. But again, it wasn't malicious. It wasn't
Yeah.
there was no evil feeling. There was no dark energy or whatever you want to call it. It was just
Yeah. So
there.
you're like,
And
okay,
it's like
this is
okay,
the
yeah,
thing
yep,
that's just
there we go.
happening.
Yep,
What about the
yep.
Samoan guy? RJ's asking, remember mom saw the Samoan guy or whatever at Billy's place? Do you
I'm
know the
trying to
Samoan
I'm
guy?
trying to think now where that was at. The Samoan guy at Billy's place.
Mom kept wanting to do EVPs.
Yeah, yeah,
And Roxy's like, no, ma'am.
yeah. Her
No.
mom was super into that stuff. She was all about wanting to try to get those the recordings. Um, I don't remember the Samoan guy thing. I'm trying to
So she
remember
was
what
so
that was.
open to it. It sounds like Stacy was so interested that her door was open. So maybe
Yeah, definitely,
that helped blow all this wide
definitely.
open too, where you're like,
Maybe.
please don't do that. And she just naturally was
Yeah,
just so interested that it was kind of like a magnet type of thing. And you guys are so sensitive anyway that they were just
yeah,
like popping in because
yeah.
it seems like a lot of different houses. When RJ was giving us the stories, it was like, okay, this house, this happened, this next house, this happened. Like there's a lot of experiences
Yeah, there's a
from
lot.
each
Yeah,
house.
there's definitely been a lot. Well, what would happen? This is kind of why we lived in a lot of different places, but so Vegas is pretty spread out, and so um, their mom and I, we kind of would hop to different jobs here and there, doing different stuff. So depending on what part of town we would live in, we would just kind of go, hey, let's move closer to where we work, and so we'd move to some other place, and then we'd move over here, and then so we kind of moved around a lot over here as well, but
But it sounds like multiple of the places that you guys moved into were either known as being spooky places beforehand. Like RJ was saying, his friends were like, "Oh, you're moving into that house? Like
yeah,
that's a spooky house." And he was like, "What? I don't know." And then like shit got all weird. So it's I
right,
was
right.
wondering, I'm like, were they picking spooky houses specifically, or did it just happen that all
No,
these houses
no.
had activity, or
I
what?
think
It's weird.
I think that there's activity everywhere, and I think that at any point, I think it's rare. I think it's a rare thing. Um, and what's really funny, here's one of the funny things is that most people think, oh, all these spirits, all these things happen at nighttime, right, when it's dark and ooh and creepy, and it fulfills kind of the Hollywood you know thing. But I saw the little boy in the kitchen at 9 o'clock in the morning. The kids saw it up the stairs in the
Yeah.
afternoon. It wasn't a like creepy nighttime dark thing all the time. And a lot of the things
Right.
that I've seen were not that whole, nighttime, ooh, spooky, dark thing. I've seen them with broad daylight. I've seen them, you know, uh, early in the morning or and at night and whatever. I think it's just kind of a weird timing situation, and I think somehow having that kind of whatever you want to call it perception or whatever of or oh shit, what did you call it earlier? I forgot what you said. The sensitivity, being sensitive of those things. Maybe there's something to do with that where you're coming through an area and for whatever reason that thing feels that and decides to do its thing or whatever, come about or manifest or whatever you call that situation. So or appear or whatever. So maybe it's kind of like a two-way street in that sense where somebody that is extra sensitive gets close to that spirit, maybe that kind of activates it, maybe, or whatever, maybe something to that extent,
Well, the way that
or
I've
maybe it's just
always
weird
kind of
timing. I don't know.
the way that I've seen it, I've thought a lot about it because since I've been really sensitive my whole life too, the way that I kind of visualize it is like there's a dark tunnel, and some people have these little abilities. Some people are vaguely aware of these things. It's maybe like a really like a candlelight or something, and then sometimes people that are more sensitive, like yourself, are more like a lantern in the dark. So if you are more open to things and your lantern is brighter, that these things like a moth to a flame basically
Exactly.
are
Yeah,
going
that
to
yeah,
come
there you
to
go.
you.
That's a perfect analogy actually of what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is that if you kind of have that situation going on, you're more likely to draw it out
Yes, which is why I
or
also have to be careful in certain places that I go. I love
mm,
going to like old abandoned places, and I used to when I was younger. I used to love going to like specifically like spooky or haunted places. I would search them out
mm,
because I thought it was super interesting, and I was having all of these sensitivities, and it was almost validating for me to be in the presence of these things, to be like this happened. But then I got to the point where I was like, I don't need any more validation. All I'm doing is
mm,
being the beacon in the dark for these things, and these things
right.
tend to surround. And my best friend and roommate Tavia, who I'm not sure if you've seen her on this podcast before, but she is also extremely sensitive as well. So when me and
Mm.
her are together, we make an extremely bright fucking light that sometimes is a little too intense. I told a story last time about, it's really spooky experience that we had in this graveyard. And I think that me alone would have had a spooky experience. Her alone would have had a spooky experience. But the two of us together, it was such a bright light that it brought a lot of things out of the woodwork. And it was more than we knew how to handle. And we
Yeah.
fucking bailed. We bailed really fast. So,
Yeah.
I do recognize that having this natural ability, we have to be more aware of the kind of energies that we are around because
No,
we
definitely.
feel
Definitely.
that shit. We feel it. I mean, even RJ
Yeah.
was saying that like sometimes he'll just like go to the store or something like that. He'll just be doing like normal people things
Yeah.
and he doesn't
Absolutely.
even know why, but all of a sudden he'll just get these feelings and just be like, oh, fuck, something's not right. And he's
Hmm.
picking up on this ambient energy that's around. And he said it affects his mood. He'll be in a
Yeah.
fine mood and all of a sudden he'll be in like a shitty or like not good mood because of this energy that he can't even like pinpoint which direction that it's coming from. So you
Yeah.
guys are very, very sensitive to all these energies around you. And I think that might go for living people, as well as,
Oh, definitely. That's
know,
definitely the case
these
too. I
old
mean,
things.
yeah, that's definitely true as well because I think we're all incredibly empathetic, like you said. That's part of that thing. But even to living people, I think that certain things hit me really hard um, in certain ways, but and they're difficult to deal with. But yeah, this is just it's just been kind of a thing, and uh, it's been interesting. I mean, I don't regret some of the things that happened. I kind of do wish that I hadn't experienced a couple of them, but I'm glad I did because it helped me make that decision whether or not to really dive into this or stay away from it. So I
Yeah.
have chosen to stay away from it at this
Yeah. I
time.
can
So yeah,
definitely understand. But
yeah,
how cool that like, your kids that did experience this with you. So you're
yeah,
not alone. You don't
yeah.
have to question, am I crazy? Was I imagining all this stuff? Like these guys both saw a lot of these things that you've seen.
Oh
And I
yeah,
find it interesting
yeah.
that RJ is even more sensitive than Roxy is. It seems like Roxy has experienced certain things, but it doesn't seem like she has that like view into the past of seeing all of these things all the time and everywhere she
Yeah.
goes. She's an empathetic person.
Right. Oh,
Obviously
definitely.
she's
Yeah.
like one of the
Yeah. Yeah.
sweetest people.
Sure.
She picks up on people's energy so much.
Oh, yeah,
So
for
that's
sure.
something that all of you guys have. But as far as like seeing people in the roads and shit like that, like I'm glad for her sake because she's just so damn sweet and easily shakable. I'm glad she doesn't have to deal with that
Yeah,
all
no
the
doubt.
time.
Yeah,
But so
sure,
your
sure.
mom was sensitive as well, even though she maybe didn't understand what that meant. I wonder about your
Yeah,
great
I mean,
grandparents.
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
your grandparents and your
My
great grand. I
grandparents.
wonder, so this is an interesting segue into some more family history
Oh boy, here we go. Now for the fun part.
because,
Yeah.
yes, it appears that one of your far back ancestors was also considered a spiritualist and
Hmm.
identified as a psychic and a healer.
Catherine,
So,
yeah. Kate.
so, so I would love for you to tell the story, if you would like to tell the story about some of
Okay, sure,
your ancestors in as
sure.
much detail as you have to give.
Yeah, I mean, I know a little extra, but it's more of just like resource stuff. And anyway, so 1872, I believe, in the 1870s, there was a family in Kansas. There was four. There was mom and dad and a brother and sister, and they had this house on one of the main wagon trails going through Kansas, back there in the Midwest, and they would um, they would entice travelers to come and stay with them because they were out in the middle of nowhere, this wagon trail, and all of a sudden there's this, house, and so they would be out there and they would entice these travelers to come in and have some dinner and have a place to sleep and park their horse or whatever was going on and for the night, and then they could continue on the next day with their travels and get a warm meal and whatnot. Well, unfortunately, what would happen is they would sit the traveling person, they would sit them down at the dinner table, and as they were eating, the daughter Kate would smash them over the back of the head with a sledgehammer and kill them. And then they would bury the bodies in the backyard.
I
So
read today that there was a trap door under the seat that they would seat everybody by this cloth and that they would come out
I
from behind the cloth and just pop them down so that way they didn't have to deal with like shuffling the bodies
Yeah,
out right then and
allegedly,
there.
yeah.
Who
So,
knows?
so yeah, they would have like a sheet or like this cloth wall, and so they would sit the person down in front of the cloth wall, and Kate would, rip open the curtain, so to speak, and just smash them over the head with this giant kind of sledgehammery thing. Yeah, as far as the trap door thing, I'm not super sure about that. There may have been some kind of process where they dumped the bodies maybe like into like a wheelbarrow type thing, and or I don't know. They obviously had some kind of process. The trap door thing, I'm not super sure about that. Yeah, the Sweeney Todd style. I don't think they were really quite that sophisticated to do that. But like I said, with this story, there's a lot of rumors going on. So anyway, that family is called the Benders. It was John Jr., Kate was the daughter. They're kind of unsure about the wife. They're
Elvira,
not.
it said on the Wikipedia that you sent me, it said her name was Elvira
Yes,
and that
Elvira,
she was a
correct,
hag like looking woman. And I thought the
correct.
name Elvira, that's a pretty cool name.
How bizarre, right? Well,
Yeah.
but they're unsure. They're unsure if John and Elvira were actually married, or if they were actually brother and sister, or they're not super sure what they couldn't. I guess they couldn't find actual like records of them being married or something. So
Actually, so I mean, I just read what you sent me, so I'm obviously
yeah,
not the best one to tell the stories, but it was saying that John and Elvira, John Senior and Elvira were married, and then they don't know if the kids were in fact siblings or they apparently like it could have been a common law marriage or something like that. So it was saying Kate
something weird.
and
Yeah,
John
yeah, it's
Jr. They were
yeah.
like they're not sure if they were actually the siblings or if they were like a couple or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, something crazy like that. Yeah, so it's very strange. So
I mean, a lot of shit
anyway,
gets lost in the shuffle, because it was so
it
long ago.
does.
It's just like
It
conjecture at this point.
it does, and they nobody knows what happened. That's the weird part is they just disappeared. Some people claim that they went up north into like Minnesota or whatever, or somewhere up in the northern area, but no one ever knows, and there's no record. There's no. I mean, they just literally vanished. Um, However, so my grandmother, my grandmother is Catherine Alice Bender.
Is
So
the one your
no, she's not.
grandmother? Okay,
She would
so
have
that
been
was
the
the descendant.
after that generation. Yeah, she's the descendant of them.
So
So
Kate had a kid, and then that was your grandmother. So your
correct.
great grandmother was the smashy smashy Kate.
Apparently so. Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah, yeah. So
Dang.
yeah, yeah. So the story is called The Bloody Benders. There is several books written about it, and unfortunately, a lot of it's kind of speculation stuff. Like I said, because they vanished, so they never got to the end of it. All they did was once they figured it out, they came to the house, found all the bodies buried in the backyard, yada yada. So that's kind of the end of it. However, so there is a there is a I don't know what you call it, monument kind of plaque gizmo that is sitting at where the property was. So where the
Really?
house used to be, yeah, it's marked. There's actually like landmarks and it shows where the house was and like the whole thing. So there's kind
Have
of
you been
it's
there?
still I have not yet been there. So I have not yet been there. I did some research. Some guys made a movie. It's on Amazon, and it's just called Bender. That's what the movie's called. It's called Bender. And
We're having a movie
you,
night because you just told me about that. I'm like, does Roxy even know that there's like a full length movie? Because I thought we
oh
would have
yeah,
discussed that. So I think we should totally have a movie
she
night and
probably
watch
forgot about it.
this
Yeah, we should.
movie.
So it's on Amazon. It's called Bender. And anyway, these guys that did the movie, they got some really good information somehow, and got some really did their research about it. So their movie, I guess, is, from what I understand, it's pretty solid on the money as far as details go. Um,
Interesting.
so
Okay, so it wasn't as like dramatized for TV type of thing. Like they tried to keep it as historical as possible.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually I emailed them when I found the movie. I got the guy's email that did the movie, because it's like an indie film kind of thing. It's not any kind of big high budget thing or anything. But I had messaged them and I said, hey, I'm a descendant of them, and I would really like to know what you guys know. If you could share some of this information, I'm sure my
Cool.
family would be interested to know where you got this information from, um, any more than what we had already. So there's one book. I guess it's the best one. It's a big book. My grandparents actually had this freaking book in their house. So I used to like read excerpts from it. But yeah, it's called The Bloody Benders is the name of the book, and you can buy it. It's still way out there available, so you can still get it. Um,
That's
what's Roxy
awesome.
saying? I got irritated with it because Elvira was German and he had a Southern accent. I
She has.
don't know if she's
Yeah, when
talking
I
about.
was reading too, said that she barely even spoke English very well. That she had a really thick German accent,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
but in the movie she had a Southern accent. Okay, I could see how that could you know, be annoying. You knowing the
Well,
truth about
yeah,
it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously they didn't nail it perfectly, but apparently, I don't know, apparently that little movie is probably pretty good. It's probably pretty accurate for the most part,
That is so
um,
cool. Yeah, I'm
but
definitely
yeah,
gonna check that out.
it's a weird thing. It was talked about a lot in our family. When we'd get together for holidays, we'd kind of talk about it and go like, what do you think they were? Why did they do that? And like, what were they doing? And why did they, and how did they do this? And why? How come no one caught them for like so long? And and it's like
Yeah. So did you
such a
talk to
weird
your
thing.
grandma about it? Was it something that your grandma was willing to talk about it, or it was more like your parents would talk about
No,
it? Because
my grandparents would talk about it all the time. We would discuss it all the time, and they'd get out the book, and they would look up stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, it said this or whatever, and I'm like, they're like, we forgot to tell you about that, and like there's this in the book, and so they mostly would kind of get off on like family tree tangents when they started talking about that. My grandma would start talking about that group, and um, my grandma's an identical twin as well, which is interesting. So was always very interested in kind of the family tree stuff and how like all these
oh yeah,
people were out there. So anyway, so we usually would get off on a tangent about family tree stuff, and my grandfather would then start talking about the war and how that goes. But anyway, we just kind of go off the rails on once we started talking about the Bender family. Um,
it's
we would
very interesting though. I'm glad that it was
it's
something
it's weird.
that was at least talked about because it is a historic event for sure,
Yeah. Well,
and it's not like
yeah,
a cool
it's
part,
part
but
of
at the same
that.
time, it's
Yeah, it's
very
not.
interesting. You know.
It's interesting. I mean, and there's probably a lot of that in that time frame of American history. I mean, well, I mean, think about it. We had like Lizzie Borden, and we had you know some of these other kind of crazy things like that happened in American history that were like um, that were fairly well documented, and that's just things that happen. So I think there's probably quite a handful of stuff like that out there if we just look for it. But um, this one just happens to be my family. So
Man, I was reading too that a couple people got away, and that it said that these two travelers left because Elvira was chasing them with a knife, and they went
yeah,
and told the cops, and then the cops came back and they were like, "What happened?" And she was
yeah,
like, "They were a witch or whatever, and put a spell on my coffee or something, and I told
right,
them to leave." So kind of like played it off as if it was their fault. But I
yeah,
guess some people did make it out that were like, something's not right in this place
yeah.
right now.
But I think what happened though, I think they got at that point. I think they started getting kind of sloppy and just kind of like, we'll just kill people in the front yard now. We won't even bring them in. We'll just fucking attack them on the street or whatever. So I think they started getting like really just sloppy about what they were doing, and I think that's why they got caught, or well, they got investigated, and then they just bailed out of town before they were ever arrested or anything. So as far as they know, I mean, they literally just kind of vanished. So I'm not sure.
Man.
We don't really know what happened to them. I think the trails got cold, and that was the end of it. So
Yeah, all you
my
have to do is say a different name. Nowadays, you have to go through all this legal shit with your license, and it's hard to
yeah,
hide your identity. But back
sure,
then,
sure,
you could just be
yeah.
like, "I'm Jane Smith," and people would be like, "Nice to meet you, Jane Smith." Like they would have
Oh yeah,
no
totally.
idea
Yeah,
who
yeah,
you
yeah. They
are.
could have just went up into Washington and became the Johnsons or whatever. I mean, you'd never know.
Totally.
But my grandmother, she came from Ohio. Actually, she was in Ohio. Um, so uh, which is very close to that area. So we're not really sure how that came about. How like so so Kate would have been my great grandmother allegedly from that family, but that's the problem is we don't know how that connects in exactly. But my grandma is
Yeah.
her maiden name was Kate Alice Bender,
So
which
she
she's
did keep. So she kept the name.
so
So maybe they
Catherine
didn't go by a
Catherine
different
was
name.
yeah, Catherine was like a family name, I guess, in that family on that on that side. So and that's my grandma's name, which is really interesting. So um,
How did she feel about that? Was she like, God damn it, now I'm like connected by like actual name?
well,
Or
but
did
she
she
married
kind
my
of think it was
grandfather, so she
interesting?
got a different her
She
last
got a
name
new
went
name. That's true.
away. Yeah, she got a new name, so the
That's
whole
true.
Bender thing is like whoop, like no one would ever put it together because they don't know her maiden name, most
Right.
people. And now she's passed, so it doesn't even matter anymore. But for her, but it's an interesting
Interesting.
story. Um, so I also have a very new. I don't know if I should tell you this though. I,
Now you have to, whatever it is. What?
uh,
Let's do it.
okay, hang on. Well, I gotta think about this real quick though.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, like it's like ridiculously new information. Hang on a second.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay, no,
I
what's
love
happening here?
ridiculously new information.
No, like very current event.
Oh.
Oh, Rox is telling me no. Yeah, okay. Ah,
I
well,
I I respect it.
hang on.
Oh, yeah. What do you think, Rex? It's a I don't know, or is it a hard no? Because now I'm really intrigued.
I'll tell you offline.
Okay,
It's
that's
like
fair.
super nuts, but um, it's just it's one of those things like okay, the story I just told you, this story is very similar, and it literally just happened like a week ago. So
Well, now,
it's a
see,
little
RJ
fresh.
doesn't even know. Dang. Well,
He
I would
might
not
not.
ever want
He
to do
might not
anything
even
that would
know
make
yet.
you or Roxy uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I understand, but no,
Yeah,
that's okay. I completely understand.
it's just it's really insanely fresh and really horrible. But
Okay. No, that's fair. I don't want anything uncomfortable. RJ's mom is the Zodiac killer.
no, that's not it either.
Did you catch that whole thing back in the chat about who is my
No.
mom? Because you kept saying Roxy's mom, and he's like,
Oh.
but wait, who's my mom? And then he's like, who is my mom? Like,
I just no, I
that's
just
been a
said
running
that as
joke.
reference
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't
No, I
if I
know.
was just like
It was
spitting
just
out like,
funny.
"Oh yeah, Stacy was doing this." I didn't know if people would know what
Yeah.
I was talking about or who that was,
No,
so I just
no,
referenced
I
it as
understand.
the
It
kid's
was just
mom. Yeah, there you go.
it was just funny. It was
Okay.
funny because he was like,
That is
so
kind of
this whole
funny.
through the chat, they're like, who's your mom? It's the only way to find out who your mom is
Who's your mama,
via
right?
these stories. Who's your mama? Oh man,
Yep.
yeah. The
So,
mom pool is still going.
right. That's funny. Well, anyway,
So, what
so
about any current spooky stuff going on? Have you had anything more recently in your home? Have you seen
no,
anything over
no,
recent times?
I have
Kind
not,
of
and
simmered down a little bit.
I feel very good about that. I feel very peaceful about that. Uh, my wife and I we just got a condo over in Summerlin, and it's just nice and calm and beautiful and chill, and there's been no nothing weird
Good.
going on. So yeah, I kind of feel
That's
like
nice.
yeah, it's a nice feeling actually. It's a very nice feeling. So yeah, I
I
feel
am
good about
so
that.
glad.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really great. It's really great, and we're just chilling and enjoying being old. No, we're not enjoying being old. But
You're not old yet. You're
no.
not even
Oh
50.
man,
You're not even there yet.
I'm
Don't even
that
worry.
close. That close. Yeah. But no, it's great.
Once you
No,
can
and so
get
far,
senior citizen discounts at Denny's, then
right.
you can say you're old. But
All
until
right,
then,
fair enough.
you're just
Fair
a
enough.
mature individual. You're a
There
more
you go.
mature guy.
Yes. So yeah, no, we love it here. I've had no experiences here, thank goodness. Um, all chill, all good. So yeah, it's been. I haven't had anything since, gosh, for quite some time now. It's been pretty, pretty smooth sailing at this moment. So
That's really good.
yeah,
So, RJ, maybe there's hope that maybe it won't last forever when you turn 40 something. Maybe it'll simmer
there you
down.
go. Yeah,
I don't know. He seems like he's real sensitive.
he is
He's had
super duper. Yeah,
a reoccurring dream for like 10 years that he had multiple times a week
yeah,
that he was telling
yeah.
us about. So I'm curious, what about your dream world? What kind of dreams do you have? Do you have lucid dreams? Do you have bad dreams, good
Well,
dreams? Like, what is your dream life?
I don't. This is gonna sound weird, but I really, I really don't have dreams per se. Um,
Interesting.
I I have one of those kind of nonstop thinking type brains. So when I'm sleeping, this is so weird. I have to occupy my brain with something else happening so that I can go to sleep and let my brain focus on this over here so that I can sleep. I don't know if that makes any sense,
Okay.
but that's what I do. So I have to have like I typically don't use music because then my body starts. I'm like, yeah, my feet start moving around and I'm playing drums in my sleep to some
Totally.
song. So I try not to use music. So usually it's either like audiobook or television. I just leave the television on and my brain can lock into whatever ridiculous TV show I can put on, and my brain zooms in on that, and then I go to sleep, and then we kind of leave each other alone for a few hours.
I'm
Um,
the same kind of way. I can't as easily just do like quiet and silence and go into sleep. My
oh my
brain
God, no.
runs a million miles an hour. I have
Yep,
a like
yep,
a radio station in my head, and if it's too quiet, I'm just like rocking out, and I'm
yeah,
thinking about all
yeah,
this crazy shit that I should not be thinking about at that moment. It is unnecessary when I'm trying
yeah,
to go to sleep. So I always have to have something going,
yeah,
unless I'm really super tired, then I just fucking zonk out. But some kind of
sure,
documentary or something going on for sure. But
yeah.
you don't remember your dreams though. You don't
I, I,
tend to
I've
remember
had
them.
a couple. I mean, um, obviously, I mean, everybody has them, I believe, but I've had a couple, kind of some of those weird ones where you're falling off a building or those kind of falling ones. I think everyone's probably had one of those, and you kind of jar yourself awake at, you know. I've had a couple of those, I'm sure, but nothing that I really remember. I don't really have a lot of dreams of things that I
Interesting.
that I remember per se, as far as anything that really stands out.
Okay.
So I guess,
RJ
but
was saying similarly, he doesn't remember his dreams very much either, but there was the one dream that was reoccurring over and over for 10 years that was
yeah,
super like
well,
intense. But as for the rest of the dreams, he said he doesn't really dream that much either. So maybe
yeah,
your family
and I
has
had a similar
dreams.
experience. I was probably like 25. Um, yeah, I was probably like 25, maybe a little older, but I kept having this weird recurring dream every night of me fighting this dude and this guy like killing me. It was so
Oh,
weird. Yeah, it happened for like 2 weeks straight, and it was the same scenario every time. And I'm just like,
huh.
oh my, again with and it was really vivid, and it felt real. I would like jump out of my sleep and be like, oh my God, that again, like it would just get me. And that happened for like 2 weeks, and then it finally just went away, and I never had it again, and never, yeah, I don't know. It's just a
Did
weird,
you know you
weird
were
deal.
dreaming at the time while you were in the dream? So did you wake up and it was like a movie and you didn't know that you were
No, it felt like
dreaming?
super real. Yeah, it was like that crazy, like, you wake up, you're sweating, you're freaking out. It was like that real, that very real feeling. Yeah, you don't know you're dreaming or whatever. So you just kind of like
You
pop
okay, so you
awake.
didn't know. Okay. So you weren't
Yeah,
lucid
no,
during the dream, but it felt super
right.
duper real after. Okay.
Yeah. So when you wake
Okay.
up, you go, oh my God, that was the most horrific dream I ever had. Like I mean, you know it's a dream when you wake up, but when you're in
Sure.
it, you don't know, it's like so
Okay.
real,
Yeah, in RJ's case, he knew every time that he was in this scenario. It was the same fucking scenario, but he knew that he was dreaming and was
right,
like, "Oh
right.
my god, this fucking dream!" And he was trying to do different things
Sure.
to get to the outcome of the dream and couldn't reach
Yeah, yeah.
that outcome. So I guess in a way, it's good that you didn't know because then it's more frustrating. It sounds like maybe it's a little more frustrating not being able to do anything to change it, and you just wake up and
Yeah,
you're like, "That was so irritating."
yeah, exactly. That's what it was more like. I would jump up and then I'd be like, oh, again with that. Geez, stop with it. Um, and yeah, but that was like I think like 2 weeks worth maybe of that one. And it's very short too. It wasn't like a long one. I don't believe it was. I think it was like a very short situation where it was like I just would like come into this room and here's this guy and he would just like get up and we would we would have this altercation and then this kind of physical thing, and then the next thing this guy would like kill me, like but like nondescript, like not with a gun, not with a knife. It was just like I'd be dead. Like he would just kill me somehow. Super weird. Yeah.
And then as soon as he killed you, you'd wake up.
I'd pop like right at that moment. I'd pop awake and then go, oh man, again with that. So I don't know who the guy is. Never seen him. Don't know anything.
Weird.
There was no. It wasn't like it was someone I had ever seen or knew or met or anything. So just some random
That's so
weird
strange.
character in my imagination that.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah,
for weeks.
yeah, like probably 2 weeks.
That's
I don't know, 9 days, 10 days, maybe something like that, somewhere in there. Yeah,
I've never had a reoccurring
super weird.
dream
Yeah,
like
it's
that. And
strange.
I've met quite a few people that have had this same kind of
Yeah,
reoccurring. It's the same exact thing over and over. And that sounds so frustrating and almost boring at a point too, where you're like, oh my God, this again. Why are we doing this again?
right, right.
Stop doing the thing. I could
Yeah,
see that, but
Roxy saying Dad hates sleep.
yeah. Do
It's not
you?
that I
How?
hate. No, it's a weird thing. So I have, I have, I have, I have issues with like normal things like eating and sleeping and going to the bathroom. They're just annoying and they waste time.
Okay, all right, I can understand that.
I know that
I can
sounds
definitely understand
completely
that.
insane, but I don't know.
No, no. I mean, I have a weird thing with sleeping too. I don't do the normal person like, okay, it's time to go to sleep now. Let me just go lay in bed. Like I very rarely do that. I stay up as long as I can until my brain shuts off and then I'm asleep. And I think that that is a habit that formed because I had such creepy shit happening in my dreams for so long that I didn't want to go to sleep. So I wanted to kind of stay awake as much as possible to avoid that. And then once I was just couldn't do it anymore, then my brain would shut down and I would sleep. I would
Right,
just push
right.
it to the point where I was like, I don't want to go to sleep because
Yeah,
shit's
it's not
gonna
even
go.
about that. Like I, I don't mind it. I mean, you gotta sleep. I don't, not, but I'm the same way. I just kind of go to sleep when I want to or whatever. Um, and because I hate trying to go to sleep, like doing that, like, oh man, I got to get up early. I better go to sleep now.
Yeah. Oh, I hate
That
that.
never works well. Yeah, but
That's why I don't do
um,
mornings ever, unless it's an emergency.
yeah. Well,
Because
what's
I can't do that. Like, okay, it's all right. I got to wake up at 7 a.m. tomorrow, so I better
right.
get to
Yeah.
bed. It's 10 o'clock. Like, how I can't fucking do that. I can't make my brain shut off like that. It's not like
What's
insomnia. It's just not my
right.
schedule. You know.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I get that. But yeah, nowadays it's super weird because like I maybe get 5 or 6 hours a night. That's kind of my zone right there of
Okay.
sleeping time. Um,
And you
it's
wake up
weird
without
because
an alarm after about 5 or 6 hours.
oh
You just pop
oh
up.
yeah, yep, wide awake. Yep, it's super weird. Yeah, it's super dumb. Because I used to be, man, back when I was in my 20s, I could sleep, 8, 10 hours, no problem, like Roxy does. This kid, this kids sleep like
I don't blame
crazy.
her.
But, but,
Yeah. Once I'm out, I want to stay out. I don't want to wake up.
well,
But
here's what
sometimes
happens.
I can pop up at like 6.5 hours. I'm awake and I'm like, why am I awake? I could sleep more, and I just can't go back to sleep sometimes.
So here's the crazy thing. Why didn't I get the sleep that, yeah, Racer has problems with it. So here's the weird thing. Like, okay, I don't think these are like dreams necessarily, but they're like sleeping consciousness. Wait, is that even a thing? I don't know. Anyway, so
Yes.
you're asleep, but you can like you having your inner dialogue while you're sleeping. Okay, so this happens to me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be asleep
Interesting.
and I'm going, I'm so bored. Oh
Really?
God, this is boring. Holy crap, I'm bored. And then I'll wake up. I'll wake myself up because I'm so bored of
And you're
sleeping.
not in a dream. You're not having any
No,
visuals. It's just your
nope,
inner
nope.
dialogue.
My inner dialogue
Shut
saying,
up. That's so
oh,
funny.
this is so boring. And I'll wake up and yeah. So that's kind of a weird thing as far as the sleep thing goes. But
That's
but yeah,
so funny.
but
It's just
see,
boring to you.
yeah, it's just boring. Like sleeping, eating. Like I love food too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I enjoy food very much, but the act of eating, just like, okay, we got to stop. We got to do all this stuff. We got to shove it in our face, and then yeah. And then
I
on the
feel
other
you.
end, we got to get rid of it, and that's a whole nother waste of time of doing all that business.
Totally.
So
I
yeah,
love food. I love food, but I don't eat frequently. I am not a 3 meal a day person at all. So a lot of times, like, I just eat out of necessity because I realize
oh, you have
I
to,
have
yeah.
today I haven't eaten anything today. I had a
Oh
cup of
my
coffee
goodness,
and water. I
sure.
haven't eaten one thing today, and I'm totally fine. And after I'm done with this podcast, I'm like, be like, okay, so I should make something to eat. Like, I guess I'll eat something. So it's like begrudging of it sometimes. I feel like I just don't feel like it. But when
Yeah.
there's like a really nice meal, it's like, oh, like yesterday we went and got crab.
Oh,
I
nice.
was in Roxy's channel. There was a whole
Right.
conversation about crab in the chat, and I
Yeah.
was like, yo, now I need to go get some fucking crab. And we totally did. We went and got crab, and that was like the most glorious experience because it's something I
Right.
really
Right. Right.
wanted, and I'm in the zone, and I feel so victorious, like having all this crab. But just in general, like I'm gonna have to eat something, but I don't like
Yeah.
want it right now. It's not
That's the
crab.
other
It's
thing
not a
too.
sushi dinner or whatever, you know?
Right. Right. Yep. That's the other thing too is trying to figure out what to eat all the time. It's like, oh. I've been like my big thing. I usually do 3 meals a day. I try to do that.
Wow.
I
That
try.
sounds
I
very
try.
wasteful of time.
It is
I don't know how you
completely
find time
wasteful.
for 3 meals a day. My goodness.
Well, this is what I do. So typically, I'm really, really big into cereal. Like cereal is my favorite food, right? Um, so I have cereal in the morning, and then and then for like around lunchtime, I guess you'd say, I might have a sandwich or I might just like eat pretzels. And then I'll have some kind of dinner later in the evening. So
Okay. But at least you do
today,
the breakfast.
yeah, but then like today we uh, I had my cereal this morning because I love cereal. I had my cereal this morning,
What kind of
and then
cereal? I need to know.
well, I'll tell you, they've been getting really freaking creative with these cereals recently, and they've got all these like new versions of stuff that I'm really digging. So
Yeah, like the
my
fusions. And yeah, we had a whole
yeah,
conversation on
so
Monday's podcast about cereal. So I'm really committed to hearing your favorite
okay.
cereals.
So right now I'm doing the Cheerios that are the vanilla crunch with almond
Ooh,
Cheerios.
that sounds fantastic.
It's frickin' stellar. That's a good one.
I love Honey Nut Cheerios, but vanilla, that sounds very
See,
good.
I'm not a fan of the honey nut Cheerios,
You
which
ever
is
put any
weird.
brown sugar on those bitches?
I have not, no.
That's the fucking ticket.
So,
So you know.
okay. So my favorite Cheerios so far are the maple Cheerios, but they're hard to find.
Ooh,
Yes.
that sounds
The
good
maple
too.
Cheerios are amazing. But these ones that I just got, the vanilla, what is it called? Vanilla Crunch or something? Uh, Vanilla Crunch with almonds. It's super good. I love it.
That
It's
sounds
really solid. It's
awesome.
delicious. Yeah. And then I also am doing uh, the Raisin Bran with the crunchy clusters as well. So I'm on this crunchy cluster kick, I guess.
Okay, you liking them
Um,
clusters? Mm.
yeah, yeah, they putting those in the basic cereals that have been around forever, and they're like doing this cluster thing. I'm really digging
They're
that. It really
good,
definitely, yeah, yeah, it's super good.
but you're
Um,
not as into the real sugary stuff.
I don't do sugar cereals at all. No, I never have.
Okay.
Never. I never. I tried like a couple times. Like if I was at one of my friends' house when I was a kid, and they're like, "Oh man, I got Fruit Loops or whatever." I'm like, "All right, whatever. I'll eat them." And they're good. I mean, they're obviously good, but I don't know. I really. Oh yeah, Honey Bunches of Oats. That one's
Mm.
amazing too. I'm just like really super into cereal, but I like the I don't know. I'm big into like the grains and the nuts and the clusters, and I don't know. I'm kind of like
Okay,
into
so
this like
on
trail
Monday we
mix
had
of
a whole
cereal.
talk about the shredded wheats.
Oh
Do you
God,
ever eat the shredded wheats that taste like you're eating a basket
yeah, no,
filled with
no. I
hay?
hate I hate that
Okay, good,
crap.
because
It's
it's
so
not
gross.
good.
It's
Yeah,
super
it's
gross.
not good.
My mom loved that. She used to eat those all the time with yeah, the big brick though. Do you ever seen the big brick of that
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah,
Well, my mom
yes,
would put the big brick in the bowl and pour the milk on and eat it like it was like, oh my God, looks like a
yeah,
hay
yeah. I
bale.
thought it was so like mind blowing when they're like mini wheats. We were like, well,
Yeah.
that's easier. But I'd see people smoosh them up and
Ugh.
ugh. So okay,
Yeah.
at least you're not one of those guys because that's
I
not good.
like I
I'd
love
judge you.
crunchy things. So yeah, we went from serial killers to
Yeah, yeah.
cereal to killer cereals. Yeah. Excellent.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's funny it's coming back around because on Monday, seriously, it was like a very long
Oh, that's
conversation
funny. Okay.
about cereals. So we were duking it out like what's
So
so we're
one of
bringing it
my
back around.
yeah, right. Quaker has these cereals that are out now. There's like three different kinds, and they're insanely delicious, but it's just too much. It's just overkill. I feel like I'm eating like horse food, but it's so delicious.
Oh,
But it's delicious. It's fucking delicious. But it's just so dense. Like it is just ridiculously dense cereal, and so it doesn't. I love it and it tastes good, but it's just really hard to eat. It's so hard to eat. And
Well, who
I don't
needs it?
know.
There's so many options. You don't even need that shit then.
Yeah. It's good though. It's awesome. Like it's like, you know, uh like cinnamon. There's like cinnamon oats with raisins and cranberries and walnuts or whatever, and it's just like holy crap, it's so good. Or this mixture is it's like it's like if you poured trail mix in a bowl and poured milk on it. I mean, it's like
Okay, that
that.
sounds
that
a lot.
it's just weird, right? It's just kind of weird. I mean, it's good, but it's weird. I don't like
I'm
crackling
like a
over it
5 year
either.
old. I like the sugariest shit possible. That's my jam. It's like Cocoa Pebbles is my
Cocoa
favorite. I love
Pebbles. Wow.
Cocoa Pebbles all day. It's my fucking
Wow.
jam. I love it.
Cocoa Pebbles. Yeah, those are
Hmm.
okay.
I'm so chocolatey.
I've had all those cereals over the years. I've had all those kind of ones. The um was the Fruity Pebbles, Cocoa Pebbles, the Count Chocula. Have you had the Count
Hell
Chocula?
yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The Count Chocula. There was another there was another chocolate one that had like they had like little ball shaped ones. Uh
Oh, like
what
Cocoa
was
Puffs?
Cocoa Puffs, there you go. That's it.
I'm cuckoo
That's
for
it.
Cocoa Puffs.
That's it. Cocoa Puffs. Yeah, Cocoa Puffs is in there. Um, yeah, but I never really got because when I was a kid, again, my parents were just weird. But no, they were great. But yeah, they would. I think the most sugary cereal we ever got. I think every once in a while we'd get Frosted Flakes. That would be like the extent of like our
Mm.
sugary cereal.
There's
And
a box of
little
Frosted Flakes to my right over here right now.
And
I
they're
just let that
good.
drop.
They're super solid because I liked corn flakes and it was like, oh, these are like corn flakes with sugar, like cool. They're like sweet version of corn flakes. So those were cool. But
Honestly,
yeah,
you add brown sugar to any fucking cereal, it makes it better. That's my pro tip
I
for
I
everybody
totally
listening. Pop a
I
little bit
believe
on
you.
top of what. Oh, it's so good. Now I'm all
I
hungry.
I use brown sugar in my coffee. I put it in my
Oh
coffee.
yes.
Yeah.
I was at a friend's house recently, and he was like, "Oh, here's the coffee stuff, and here's the sugar over here," and it was brown sugar in the coffee, and it changed my life. It
Mhm.
was so fucking good, so
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Oh my god.
I either use brown coffee or I use the raw sugar, which is essentially crystallized brown sugar. So I use that a lot, and I like that stuff with my coffee too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely good.
Oh, Dusty said the frosted flakes are not there. I put it away earlier because I didn't know why it was on the floor. I was eating it
Awesome.
in the dead of night, and it just kind of went put to the right. Sometimes you gotta have frosted snacks at 5:30 in the morning, which is definitely what happened last night.
True.
See, I'm not a big fan of like eating meals a lot of times and dealing with all that, but sometimes you just gotta shove your face full of frosted flakes
No,
in that moment.
absolutely. Oh no, my wife is all about that. Like I'll come home at night or whatever from like a gig, and I'm like, are you hungry? Did you have dinner? And she's like, oh yeah. She goes, I had a bowl of whatever, I had some cereal, and I'm like, all right, cool, cereal for dinner, awesome.
Yep,
Like I'm
yep.
all about that. Like yeah,
You're an adult.
yeah,
You're allowed.
yep, absolutely,
So, are you
absolutely.
excited about the tour coming up? Are you
I
looking forward to
am.
the tour?
I am. I'm a little nervous as well. I got to be honest. I'm a little nervous about it. Um, but I'm super stoked. I mean, we were we were supposed to have several tours over the last 2 years, and obviously, you know,
Yeah, it didn't
things
work
didn't
out.
happen. So that was a real bummer because, we had just signed with the record company. We were just signed with Die Laughing, and we were super motivated and super gung ho to take this band out on the road and go play for some people. And at that time, we kind of thought, oh well, this virus thingy is going to be gone in like a month, and everything will be cool, and it will hit the road in the fall, and blah 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 blah. Well, didn't happen. So um, we were pretty bummed out about that, but we kept busy obviously, and then started doing this Twitch thing and all that, which was cool. So yeah, I'm super excited. I'm super excited about it. That's one of my favorite
Good.
things. One of my favorite things is to tour and play music for people all over the country. It's the greatest. We've made so many friends and so many cool bar owners and venue staff and just all these cool people all over the place, and that's what makes it super exciting. And then being able to share your music with some new people, that aren't going to come to Vegas and see you. They just don't have the
Totally.
way to do it or whatever, or they don't have the means to do it, but they can pay $3 to get into a show or go to a free show or whatever. We bring music to their place and have them come and see us, and that's super
That's
cool. I
so
mean, I
awesome.
love that. Yeah, it's really cool, and so and we all feel like that. I mean, we're definitely that's our mission, is to get out there and play this music for people and have them enjoy it and make friends. I mean, that's really, why not? I mean, make friends is the cool thing. You want
I
you want cool
know. It's
friends,
so
right? You want to
cool.
have cool friends, so
And
you
there's
go out
so
you
many
go out and
all
make
over
good
the
friends.
country.
Exactly.
It's so cool. I'm
Exactly.
so excited for you guys. I think there's
Yeah.
so many people that are going to just be
Yeah.
so happy that they've known you for so long, having you in their house on their TV
Right.
for a
Right.
year
Well,
or
that too. Yeah.
whatever,
And seeing
and
those
then
friends, absolutely, having them come out.
it's
Yeah,
going to be
absolutely.
great. It's going to be so
Absolutely.
fun. I hope that it goes
Well,
really well.
yeah.
And I know you'll be safe. Everybody will be safe and
Yeah,
washing
yeah. It
hands
just,
and doing all the
yeah. Our,
things.
our our concern is in some of the areas, across the country, things aren't looking real good for people, and we just don't want to get in the situation where we get out there in the Midwest, and then things go crazy and they start shutting down venues, and we're missing shows, and because that would just be a bummer. So I have a little,
It would.
yeah, I'm a little freaked out a little bit about that. Maybe not freaked out. I shouldn't say that. I have concern about that. About
But
maybe
you
we
know
get
what?
to
If life
something like
gives you
that. But
lemons, you make lemonade. And if for some reason a show or any shows get shut down, you guys are on a road trip and you can go do some naturey
oh
outdoor
yeah, oh
stuff
yeah,
and you
yeah.
would
We've done
enjoy it.
that.
So
We've
at the
done that.
least of it,
Sure.
you get a couple days off.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and
could
that's
be
fine. I mean,
worse.
we've had that happen before for sure. Where something wacky happened at the venue and someone double booked it or whatever happened, and so we're just like, okay, whatever, and we go on to the next town and do our thing over there. But I hope. I mean, if it happened like to one place, wouldn't be a problem. I just don't want to have come across 4 or 5 venues that we're trying to play at go down, and then we're just
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this was a nightmare.
Well,
Um,
to be fair, you're going to be in the Midwest, and a lot of it is in the Midwest, and a lot of those places will fight to the death to make sure that shit doesn't get shut down again.
I know, right?
If
Yeah,
it was a West Coast tour, I would worry a little bit more about that, but I feel like it's,
yeah,
people are just going to kind of roll with
yeah,
it.
yeah. For the most part, yeah. I mean, and again, but I mean, most of the places that we're going um, aren't super sketchy. I mean, we're not going into Florida and kind of that whole southeast region
Yeah,
where it seems to be really bad, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on over there. Um, so yeah, I don't.
that's good.
We're kind of avoiding that area, and we'll be safe. I mean, if something feels wrong, we've we've never been ever been opposed to going. Nope, we're out of here. Um, we had that, yeah, in Reno. We had that happen in Reno one time. It just the whole situation was sketchy, and we said, "Screw it, we're going home," because that was the last stop on our tour, and we just said, "F it, we're going home."
Really?
So,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah, we scrapped the last show because it just turned into this super sketchy situation. Um,
What?
yeah, it was a whole bunch of things. It was in a horrible neighborhood or horrible area of Reno. The girl that booked it was in jail, so they didn't know that we were coming. Booked some birthday party with a band, and that band was a bunch of assholes, and it was just a mess. And we're like, you know what? We don't need this. Bye. And so we
Oh,
just went home. We just
man.
bailed. But it was okay. We're okay with that. We're okay with going, you know what? If this sucks, we're not doing it. We're not going to put
Yeah.
ourselves in a bad situation. There's no point in it. There's no point.
And you beat
Yeah.
a blizzard by 30 minutes? Really?
Oh
Had you
yeah.
played, you would have been stuck.
Mhm.
Really?
Mhm.
Whoa, that sounds awesome.
That too. Yeah. So the timing of it actually worked out pretty
Jeez.
well. But I mean,
Okay.
we would have been stuck in Reno for an extra day. But yeah, we got out just in the nick of time. But yeah, it was just a
Phew.
weird thing. So if things are sketchy, if we feel that our safety or the show there's just like something weird going on, we have no problem just bailing. It's going, nope, not ours. We're out.
Okay. Well,
So
good. I think
we'll
that
be all
it
right.
opens up opportunities for you guys. You know, you're going to go, you're going to have a good time, and you know, if it doesn't work out
Absolutely.
the way that you expect, you're willing to roll with the punches and
Absolutely.
you'll
Always.
still all be
Always.
together and you guys will have a great time. I think
We
it's going to
always
be
do. We always
so
find fun things to do,
fun.
and yeah, we always find fun things to do, or we just hang out, and we'll have Jesse with us, and Jesse's super awesome. He's a lot of fun, and him and I, we can just sit around and talk about whatever, and have a good old time, and laugh, and talk about old tours and new tours and whatever. I mean,
Cool.
we can just reminisce, and he's so crazy, man. He's so crazy, and he cracks me up all the time. So Jesse's good entertainment as well.
That's
So
awesome. I'm glad that you've got like the
yeah,
best roadie ever and you
he
guys
is
all get along so well.
hands
It's really
down.
cool.
Yeah, he's
And
great.
Dolores has air conditioning now?
Oh yeah, yep.
Sweet. Good. I'm glad that
We're
that
getting Dolores all
is
tuned up and
fixed.
fixed up and whatnot, and so
I got to
hopefully.
get the royal tour of her when I was out
Oh, you
there. It was
did. Oh
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Excellent.
awesome.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yes, it's very good. So, yeah, flip flop
That's pretty
cowboy.
sweet.
That's right. Yeah, Jesse's hilarious because uh, so we when we're on tour, a lot of times we park at these like truck stops overnight, and they have these stores in there. They have these like kind of expanded convenience stores, and a lot of them have like clothing and like weird stuff, and a lot of it is a lot of the clothing and things they have in there are kind of, I guess, native to the local area. So, when we're in like Texas or whatever, there's like an abundance of like cowboy hats you can buy. And when we're up in like certain areas where there's like a predominant like Indian reservation or whatever, you see a lot of really cool Native American stuff, and so it's kind of sets
I
wherever
love
you're
those
at, right?
shops.
Oh yeah,
I
it's great.
love those
And so
shops so much.
Jesse's notorious for like buying some crazy, like the craziest thing he could find in the store,
Cool.
right? So he'll come out with a cowboy hat or a headdress, or like it's always some
That's
crazy.
awesome.
So we had we had this I think John was with us at that time, but it was actually an RGP tour years ago. But we had this thing where we had to see at the end of the tour who bought the most crazy hat. So we were all buying all these stupid hats in these truck stops to try to like outdo each other. And
That's
so
fun.
Jesse buys this like big giant like kind of sombrero-y cowboy hat thing, but so he's walking out of the store with this giant cowboy hat, and he's wearing flip-flops, and so we called him the flip-flop cowboy the whole tour. It was
Gotcha. That's
super
so
funny. Yeah,
funny.
and it was
That is
hilarious.
so funny.
He's wearing shorts and flip-flops, and he's got this crazy cowboy hat with the feathers and stuff, and it was so funny. I think there's a picture on our Facebook of
Oh
that, but
man. I
and then
can't wait
John.
to see what kind of fun stuff you get on your tour this time. That'll be fun.
Oh, it's always something goofy, and I buy tons of shirts. Like that's my thing. I don't know if you ever saw my video of the crazy T-shirt collection I have, but
Uh-uh.
um, okay, it's somewhere on Discord. Um, but that was only like half of my collection. But so I usually buy a shirt or something, and I buy my wife a snow globe from every city that we go to. If we go
Oh,
to
that's
the
nice.
Yeah, so she has this big collection of snow globes from all the different states and cities that I've been to. So she likes to collect
Cute.
those. Yeah, so that's a cool thing that I love to do. Roxy does magnets. Yeah, Roxy buys magnets from all the places that we go. So
I do magnets too. I have a nice magnet collection. My fridge is covered. I've traveled so
cool.
many places. It's a nice little like fun token that's small that I can
Yeah,
have that I can put up and it's fun.
yeah. No, that's great. Those are super great. So yeah, so I usually end up with a shirt, but we'll probably end up doing some goofy stuff again with the hats. I love hats too. I'm a big fan of hats, but uh, Jesse, man, Jesse always scores the great ones. I think John had this crazy toque with like these like the flaps, with the sides, the one that you pulled down the like
Oh
I don't know what
yeah.
they're called. Those like winter hats that have the flaps that come down and they tie
Yeah,
underneath
like
with the
Kyle from South Park.
yeah, there you go. That,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think
I
John
would
bought
know
one
you
of
too.
those and he looked ridiculous. It was super funny. Yeah, yeah, it wasn't a toque. It's like one of those a different hat, but yeah, it was super funny. And Jesse had the cowboy hat. Yeah, we always have a blast. Roxy said what? Oh
Oh,
yeah,
really? Oh, there is only one potato. There should have been only potato magnets. Pretty
yeah,
much.
true. Yeah,
That's funny.
sometimes it's a bust, and you were like really disappointed that there's like nothing really good. So, oh yeah, John's hat. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was great. Yeah, but
Well, maybe if you guys make a scavenger hunt list or something before you go, that has like a bunch of fun shit that you have to find at all these different shops and
maybe,
see who
yeah,
finds
that
the
might be
best
kind of
thing. That would be
fun.
really fun.
That would be
You
fun.
could
You're
post
right.
them in the Discord too if you want to, you know? Like
Oh,
everybody
totally.
find the
Yeah.
most ridiculous magnet and the most ridiculous mug or whatever. And that'd be fun. People could vote on them too. People could
Yeah.
totally like on Discord make votes on what they who they think had the best
Oh, that's fun. That'd be
magnet
a good idea.
find or
Sure,
t-shirt
sure.
or hat or whatever. That would be so
Right, right.
fun.
Yep. That
Because
Roxy's
you
all
guys
on
are not
that.
going to
She's
be
like, yep.
streaming in your normal capacity. So you'll be, trying to stream from the shows. But if you make it somehow interactive for all your people,
Sure,
to
sure.
kind of stay
Yeah, no, that's a
tuned
great
with what you're
idea.
doing, I think
Yeah, 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 yeah,
that
yeah.
would be fun.
Roxy's all over this. You just like
Yes. I
boom,
got
light
you.
bulb. Yeah, yeah.
Me
That's
and
brilliant.
Dusty, or sorry, me and Tavia went on a 3 week trip last fall, September and October, and we had Dusty make us a scavenger hunt before we went on the trip,
Oh, very cool.
and
Very
it
cool.
was so fucking fun. It was so much fun. This
Nice.
scavenger hunt, he put like some random shit on there, and it was so cool because the whole time we're like, okay, like we need to find this one thing. It was great. It kept us like entertained the whole time. And then towards the end, we're like, fuck, okay, we need some sand from a dry riverbed. Like we're getting to the end of the
Right?
list. We got to find the dry riverbed. We're on it. It was really, really fun. So I think from
Excellent.
here on out forever, whenever I do a road trip type of thing, I think I want to have scavenger hunts beforehand.
A good
It was
idea. Yeah.
great.
That
And
sounds
all the
fun.
animals too. It was like at least 5 animals. And we're doing a bonus where we're gonna write down every animal that we saw. So we started like you're like, oh shit, there's an owl,
Nice.
there's a hawk, there's a
Right?
fucking buffalo, like it was fun. It was really fun. So
That's awesome.
it is.
Very, very cool. Very
Love to
good.
make road trips as fun as possible. So
Yes. Well, my
but I'm
friend,
excited to hear about it.
I'm fading fast here. I've had a long
Okay.
day.
No, we
But
had a good run. I think we
yeah, it
covered
was
a
super
lot
great.
of ground from serial killers to favorite cereals
Yep.
and all of your really interesting experiences. Thank you so much for sharing a
Oh,
lot
you're so
of these
welcome. I had a blast and I'm
spooky
glad I could share some of this
experiences.
stuff and yeah, I will get with you later in the week and I'll tell you that other story, but
Okay. I do
the
appreciate
forbidden
that. I'm
story. Yeah, no, I
going to be
know.
interested.
I just it's kind of it's just you'll understand when I tell you, but anyway,
I
it'll be
totally
for down
understand.
there. Yeah. But I
Okay.
appreciate you. Thank you for having me, and thanks
Yes, I
for letting me
appreciate
share all
you
the
so
craziness
much
with you.
too. No, this was so fun,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that you were able to reschedule. I'm glad it worked
Yeah,
out
me too. Yeah,
good,
it worked out good. Yeah, because
and
we're
then
out
I
of
can
town next
reschedule
week.
my
So
yeah, and my guest that I
perfect.
had for tonight. She was like, it actually works out because it gives me more time to prepare for
Sure,
everything.
sure.
So I think it worked out for everybody. So
Yeah,
I'm glad that that happened. So yeah,
absolutely.
we'll
Yeah, it
find
worked out
somebody to
good.
raid. Oh, you know
Awesome.
what? Fetchbug is on. Rocks. Let's do Fetchbug today. That would be good. Fetchbug is awesome. She does a true crime. She's a
Oh,
mortician.
cool.
She's in mortician
Okay.
school, and she talks
Nice.
about true crime all the
Wow.
time. So she's super
Awesome.
cool. She actually raided us on Monday, so it'll be fun for
Rad.
us to raid her back. So
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
yeah, so this will be good. Let's do it. Oh, thanks, Rox. I appreciate it. You had to be here for your dad's show.
Absolutely.
That's important, It was very, very important. So,
I
thanks.
just
Yes,
I just
yes.
wish my background was as cool as yours. That's I don't I'm just like in my office.
Hey, you got to work
I-
on it, man.
I'm in
It's
my
just a tapestry.
office.
Boop.
Yeah.
That-
That's awesome. I should have done that. I should have found something to put up behind me, like something cool. But anyway,
That's
all
okay.
right. So
I won't
you
judge you for it, but
you're on your way to raid. It looks like coming in.
yeah, we're gonna raid it
Okay.
up,
All
raiding it
right,
up.
guys.
Thank you so much for being here. I
Thank
really
you. Thanks everybody for
appreciate
watching.
having
Appreciate it.
you.
And we will get back to the rock and roll now, I guess.
Yes, I look
Next time we
forward to
see you.
it.
There we
Yeah,
go.
and
Yep.
big mod love for your lovely daughter,
Yes, and my
Roxy. Good
kids for hanging out and coming in.
mod
Yep,
love.
absolutely.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
so glad.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we'll
Very
see you
cool.
later.
All right. Thank you guys. Thanks,
All
Sammy. Thanks,
right.
Dusty. Talk to you guys
Thanks for
later.
being here.
All right.
All
You got
right.
it.
See ya.
Bye.
Let's hit up Fetchbug. Let's see. Rating. Almost rating. So close. There's always such a lag. All right. We did it.
Oh, it's gone. Okay. Cool.
We did it.
Yeah, we're